what QBs are looking the part? What QBs are looking like they have that top 10 potential NFL value, top 10 potential fantasy football value of the future? Now, this is a great quarterback class. And let me start off by saying that we thought the Zach Wilson and Justin Fields and Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence draft was a fantastic quarterback draft as well. These things happen, but you can't let something like that, a failure in general, or a failure on one of us, a failure on me loving T-Law, and I still have hope for T-Law, but you can't let that influence the future. You can't say, oh, because this didn't work out, we can't like this over here. Because an ACL tear held back Barkley and JK, which I warned everybody that in those two cases they would. We can't take Breece Hall until the next year. You got to let Breece Hall have one full year because running backs don't come back from ACL tears. We talked about that as well. Case by case. Everything in fantasy is case by case. And you cannot let last year, the year prior, failures at quarterback with high, lofty expectations paint a picture or influence you into thinking that this class can't have two top 5, top 7, top 8, top 10, probably 2 top 10 for sure. 2 top 12 if you want to play very, very safe. 2 top 12 quarterbacks, NFL and fantasy, and I think they'll go hand in hand for the most part. Could one be Caleb? Absolutely could be. Talent-wise, he's got it. Situation-wise, pretty damn good. Right now, at least. I think it changes if Swift gets injured and looks like a different player at the end of the year. Once Keenan Allen drops off, it does thin out a lot. But I don't love I don't love Caleb for a lot of other reasons. So he's not the one I predict becomes the top 10 or 12. I think he could be. Maybe there's a third. Maybe 3 of these guys become top 12 quarterbacks. I think it's going to be, you obviously know JD5 and Michael Penix Jr., but we're going to delve into the news surrounding all these quarterbacks. We're talking rookie quarterbacks. We're talking about who currently looks the part, who's doing good, who's doing bad. It's very early on in rookie camp, and we can't judge these guys too harshly, but there is some news to talk on, so the Fantasy Football Show begins now. File on in.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
You guys know how much I love JD5. JD5 to me is Lamar Jackson, but probably going to be better. It might take him half a year to a year and a half. I'm not saying it happens overnight. I'm not an idiot. That statement has been made. I see people that they take things out of context all the time, no matter where I'm at. In a chat, in a DM, in a whatever, in the comment section, Smitty, he's not going to be Lamar. You know how long it's going to take Lamar? I just had like 4 arguments with people today about it. And it's like, I'm telling you that I believe, and you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me at all. I believe that JD5 could be a top 1 to 5 quarterback in fantasy football. There's no reason JD5 can't be Jalen Hurts, that he can't be the 1 or the 2. I'm not saying you rank him there. I'm not saying you expect that. I'm saying you can't rule that out. He's got the intangibles. He's got the stats. He's the best pocket quarterback to come out of college this year, and arguably in many ways the last decade. There's not a better pocket quarterback from the pocket than JD5. And people they're not educated on the numbers and stats around that. They just hear that JD5 is a scrambler. He's not as good inside the pocket. He doesn't have quite the arm or the vision, which is all untrue. There's data and stats to back it up. JD5 is the best pocket passer, not only coming out of the 2024 NFL draft class, he's the best pocket passer in the last 10 years. And I believe JD5 becomes a top 5 quarterback within a calendar year, maybe a year and a half. I don't think he's on that pace in week 2, but I think you start kind of like, AR5, you could see dancing inside the top 5, cups of coffee with the top 5. Like, he can have that kind of performance. He's surrounded by talent. He's got Dotson, who I think is very grossly underrated this year. He's got McLaurin, who's got a handful of years left still. They've got just an arsenal. Even Eckler, Sinnott, they did an amazing job surrounding this quarterback with immense talent. And when people say, oh my God, the Bears are so scary, they've got such a better, I don't think the Bears have all that much more talent when you consider how much more valuable JD5 is over Caleb, in my opinion. When you realize how good he is versus Caleb, in my opinion, you've got a huge advantage when you're comparing teams just right there. Then you start talking about, okay, the running back stable. I'm not impressed by the running back stable over in Chicago. They mismanage it all the time. And not to mention that Swift is like a great car that was driven like really roughly for 10 years in that one season in Philly. And then the new owner taking it on is going to have all kinds of problems. The mileage has been ripped, or the tread has been ripped off the tires. The mileage has been thrown on this vehicle. He was not built to be a between-the-tackle running back for an entire season. He stayed healthy, took the abuse. I'm not worried about Swift in this running attack. I mean, they got Eckler, who I know may or may not have anything left, but it's worth a shot. You got Eckler, Brian Robinson. You got a pretty formidable running back stable that I think is better than Chicago. So you got Washington already better at quarterback, in my opinion. You can think whatever you want. This is my opinion. It's my show. That's my opinion. My opinion is JD5 runs circles around Caleb. Not just is better. He's a top 5 quarterback. Caleb's it's gonna be hard pressed for him to get in the top 10, in my opinion. Doesn't mean he can't be 10, 12, 13, 15. Certainly can. His talent's there. The question marks are not around the talent. It's around a lot of other things. JD5 is better than Caleb. The running stable in Washington is better than the one in Chicago by not even a little bit, by quite a bit. And that's assuming that Eckler doesn't even have, a semi-elite season left, and he might not. But the odds of Eckler having a full year or a better year than Swift are higher, in my opinion, given Swift's injury history mixed with the fact that they ran him like a tank up the middle when he's built for half receiving work, half rushing work. Then you go to the wide receiver room, okay, and you say, yeah, Adunze alone is freaking unbelievable. So, yeah, Chicago's going to win this one, and they're certainly going to win this one in the redraft and long-term sense, but at the end of the day, it isn't as big of a difference as you might think. McLaurin's pretty damn good. Some would say McLaurin and DJ Moore are very, very close. Some would say that Dotson's untapped. Some would say he's a bust. Some would say he doesn't ever develop. Luke McCaffrey's very, very crafty. Sinnott's an unbelievable, solid future option for this team. They've got quite a bit of talent. And they've got also one of the best GMs in football in his first year in Washington after commanding behind the scenes the puppet master in San Francisco, really controlling the draft, getting Kittle, Brock Purdy, all kinds of late draft selections. And Adam Peters, now GM in Washington, is going to turn this puppy around. And this is the same thing we saw in Detroit. This is the same thing we saw in Houston. This is the same thing we saw years prior in Cincinnati. It's the blueprint of turning something around immediately from the top down. Great decisions. JD5 is going to the freaking moon. JD5 is going to be as good as AR5. JD5 is a 5. There are now 2 5s.
There are 2 5s? JD5, AR5? There can't be.
Oh no. They're gonna cross streams. You know, what's funny is, and again, maybe Mark's a regular and I just don't recognize it, but they're always random comments. And I think because we pull in, somebody from like the Bear community when I'm talking about this, and then all of a sudden, but saying Daniels is better than Williams is insane. How it's more insane to say Caleb's going to be better than JD. especially from a fantasy football perspective, which is the room that you're in right now, by the way. But like, you can't even make this claim. This is the most ridiculous statement I've ever seen. How can you, like, I wouldn't even say if you have Caleb over JD, you're insane. Because I think that's look, we're all waiting for these things to be proven. But for you to make this statement, it's really embarrassing for you. Because all of the stats tell you that JD5's better. There's nothing you can bring to the table. My phone line's open, and if you'd like to discuss it, I know you probably won't, but the phone line's right here. I'd be glad to have this conversation with you because you have nothing to bring to the table. Yet I'm the insane one, but I have all of the facts and data to present to you, and you're going to give me what? I like him. He didn't have as much talent, and he didn't do better, but he could have done better. Maybe he would have done better in another Spider-Verse. You just saw 2 Spider-Men. Maybe there's another Caleb out there and another Spider-Verse that actually had good supporting cast, and he outdid JD5. I mean, that's this is the crazy thing. This isn't crazy. This take is crazy. To suggest that you think JD5 hasn't proven he's better than Caleb? Okay. Well, that's why we play the game. That's why we play the game. Okay. Let's move on. We know JD5 is the best quarterback in this draft class. Anybody that knows anything, no offense, they know that this guy's got the most potential to be fantasy football QB 1 from the draft class, and most potential to be the next Lamar Jackson. In fact, I believe, as I've said over and over, he will be better than Lamar Jackson. He will be better than Lamar Jackson. Crazy like a fox. Robert, I'm waiting. My phone line's open for both Robert and who was it? It was Robert and what's his name? Mark? Who was it? Robert and Marcus saying Daniels is better. So both of you think that Caleb's better. My phone line's open and waiting for you. Okay? It's right there in the corner. So I'm curious to know where I went off the rails and whether I should check myself into a padded room or not, because frankly, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about on this, and you have data that makes it so compelling that I'm crazy. Like, I'm not even sitting here going, you like Caleb more, you're crazy. You're saying that about my take, but you got no evidence. You know what I'm saying? It's just weird. It's weird. Okay, Tua has a great wide receivers. He does, easy, but one hit and Tua's down, bro. One hit and Tua is down. Penix Jr. is going to be better than Caleb. That's what's funny. That's what's funny to me, is like, we're here arguing that a $20 bill is better than a 10. And I'm like sitting here with Marcus and whoever it was, Marcus and Robert, and I'm like trying to convince them, which is weird, trying to convince them that a $20 bill is more valuable than a $10 bill, when really Penix Jr. is the one debate we should be having. Is this Marcus or is this the other guy? 909.
No, this is none of them. This is none of them, Smitty.
All right, who's this?
This is Jason. But I just wanted to say, JD5 in the first round. Would you take JD5 in the first round of fantasy?
First of all, Jason, where are you calling from?
California.
Okay, from Cali. Thank you for calling in.
San Bernardino, California.
Thank you for calling in on behalf of Marcus and whatever his face is. Matt, was it Matt? I think it was Matt. Thank you for calling in and facing this for them. In the first round of a Dynasty startup, I assume you're saying, right?
Yes.
Is Superflex, I assume you're saying?
Probably more PPR.
But you're not taking a quarterback in the first round necessarily, broski, unless it's a 2 QB.
No.
So what are you talking about?
Talking
about rookie
Dynasty,
only?
Then, yeah.
You talking about rookie?
Yeah, I'm talking Dynasty, but rookie Dynasty.
Rookie only. Okay, different. Big difference. Rookie only draft, Dynasty, PPR. Would I take JD5 in the first round? Abso-freaking-lutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, bro.
Okay.
Now, where is the big question? We just had a draft. We're having a draft that's ongoing in a follower Dynasty league that we have. that I'm in about 3 of them. I started them when I first started the channel. I don't do any more because, I realized what kind of a commitment I kept throwing myself in just to get excited about I think we did like a mock draft once and we turned it into a league, and then we started doing more leagues, but I don't really do them anymore. We have some openings once in a while because people quit. They cry and complain about something and they leave the league, and I have to go to my Instagram stories and be like, who wants to take over a league? So there's about 3 or 4 of these follower leagues we started back in the day on the channel. And we're in the middle of a draft right now. And I traded to get into the 2.1 to select 2.1 and 2.2 to select Blake Corum because I have Kyron. So I've locked that up. And that's, again, Saturn Man, top 5 guaranteed running back. There's no shame in wanting to cuff it. That has nothing to do with belief in Kyron failing or not. It's a belief in Sean McVay. It's a belief in Sean McVay to lock up that top 5 running back. So I took Corum and JD5 back-to-back with the 2 picks, the 2.1 and the 2.2, I believe it was. So
okay.
Those are steals, bro. Those are steals. Yeah. And I even have Burrow, and it's a 1 QB. I have Burrow already, and I took JD5 because I have a feeling I'm starting JD5 at some point very soon. Yeah. Because this is the same thing with AR5. Look, I love Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's easily a top 5-6 capable quarterback, but so's JD5. JD5 is capable of being 1 to 5. Joe Burrow's capable of probably being, I would say on average, could he ever have a quarterback 1 year? Sure. But on average, he's probably like 3 to 6 maybe. I think Joe Burrow floats around there. JD5 might have the same floor, let's call it 6, but he has a higher ceiling. He has a capability of being like 1.
I agree with you completely. I agree. This kid is unreal. He's unreal. The stats prove it. We just got to see, But that's why we tune into you. That's why we listen to you. And Smitty, you know it all. You know what I mean?
I don't know it all. I don't know it all. I don't know it all. I promise you that. And I miss all the time. And I take my laps when I need to and all that. But I will tell you this. Like, could JD5 fail? Yeah. Bro, there have been players before that I've loved that have failed. And I swear to you, I believe in my bones that player would have been elite. Let me give you an example of a player like Charles Rogers for the Detroit Lions wide receiver. Kept breaking his collarbone. That guy would have been so good. He would have been easily a top like 4 to 7 wide receiver. Lee Suggs for the Cleveland Browns back in the day was such a good prospect, and he had a narrowing in the spinal cord, and that took him out. Like, there's so many things that happen. You're like, come on. What's the guy's name? Ross, Justin Ross for the KC Chiefs. Coming out of college, he had the spinal fusion or the back fusion thing. That guy could have been amazing. We will never know. These things happen, and I think that if JD5 somehow weren't to work out, it would be a crazy, certain circumstance that we could not see coming that would take this situation off the rails. There's certain players that just not only look the part, not only have the stats to back it up, not only have the situation, but like you can just feel it, bro, in your bones. And I've been doing this for 25 plus years, and 19 straight of it was on NBC and CBS Sports Radio, dropping bold predictions. I don't want to say that there wasn't somebody that, I can't actually say for certain that somebody didn't say, oh, let's do a fantasy football bold prediction. But essentially, I'm your boy. I'm the guy who dropped bold predictions for really the first time in the fantasy industry. It became a common practice. Bold predictions. Here's my top 10 bold predictions. Here's my top 10 insane things. And that started in 2002/2003 when I got on CBS and NBC Sports Radio. Did that for 19 straight years on the longest running fantasy football radio program in the world. So like I have a little bit of a instinct, I think, that some people will say I'm not a statistical guy. Of course I'm a statistical guy. I'm waiting for the JD5 doubters to call up. I'll drop statistics on them all day long. But what I think that is a unique part of what I do is like there's a lot of gut involved, bro. And sometimes it's reading, it's reading things. I was telling Travis this the other night. Like, I used to be a track coach and I used to run competitive track. And and this is a weird way to kind of tell you about like how my scouting mind works. But when you would run track, you would size people up. You'd try and figure out, looking at bone structure, body types, like who's going to be the one to beat in this race? Who's the person I got to box out? Who's the person I have to, tail? Who's going to gas out in the beginning of the thing? You watch them warm up. All you got to do is watch somebody warm up, and you can pretty much tell who the fastest person is lining up for a mile run. All you got to do is watch someone warm up, how they stretch, how they jog, how they sprint in the beginning, how they look, their demeanor, how focused they are. If they're going like this and like they're taking their drawstrings and they're flinging them around, like you can tell everything about somebody by watching them. Yeah. And it's just a weird way. Hold on. It's a weird way to describe the scouting process, but like sometimes you see a lot of different things, and maybe this is why I'm so hard on Caleb, because when I look at players that are successful over and over and over for 25 plus years, bro, scouting NFL college players for the radio show, scouting players for the content, the fantasyfootballshow.com. If anybody needs year-round content, code DRAFT will get you 10% off. 25 years of watching player mannerisms, interviews, how they stretch, how they jog, how they run, how they throw. There's a certain thing that you cannot take out of the scouting process, nor can you teach it to anybody, nor can you explain it to anybody. And that part is such a big component in predicting a bold prediction and breakout, which is why I started to do it in the beginning, because I just there's a certain like part of this that is innate, you know what I mean? And when I look at, and the reason I'm telling you all this is not to pat myself on the back or ask for a cookie. No. But when you see a guy like Bijan, and everything that I'm telling you that I did with track, like I literally say that kid right there, that's running sprints over there, that's the fastest kid in the school. That kid could win state right there. I can tell because of the way he runs. I can tell because of his fundamentals. I can tell because of the stride, the bone structure, his demeanor, how focused he is. You start to put all these things together so quickly, and that's why scouts are so good at what they do. And I believe that, maybe I'm not an NFL like scout on the field, but I've been doing as long as half the people that have been doing it in the NFL, like from a different perspective. There's a lot that gets brought to the table, and I've always said, kind of like Moneyball, it would be very interesting if the NFL brought in a couple elite, not some wild guys that have been doing it 2 or 3 years, elite fantasy football minds into a scouting room, because they'd have so much more to bring to the table than the average scout, because they're looking at things from a different long-term predictive. What's the stat line going to be? What kind of production is going to come out of this player? How likely are they to hold up? All these different things that go into analyzing this, if you do it right, is such an intriguing part about scouting that I feel like the NFL doesn't get to, relish in at all. So, it would be fun for me to see, even if it wasn't, obviously me, but somebody else to go into from the fantasy space is really good, to go into a scouting environment, get drafted up and prove that you can identify talent in a little bit of a different way than the average bear. And so, anyways, swinging back to JD5, this is what I feel like. This is why in January I came out and said, this guy's the number one quarterback in college football without a hesitation. And this is why I came out and said Penix Jr. was the number 2 quarterback over Caleb. These guys saying that I'm crazy for saying JD5's better than Caleb. Well, how do you feel about Penix Jr. being better than Caleb? Because that one's going to really tickle your fancy. But when I said Penix Jr. was my number 2, far and away, right behind JD5, he's my number 2, it's because of all those same things. And what happened with Penix Jr.? He fell. He had the national championship game after all of my claims about him, and everybody's like, oh, he's not any good. He crumbled. He's not going to be a first rounder. I said, just wait, young man. Prone. I said, just wait, young man. He'll be a top 10 pick. He's not gonna be a top 10 pick. He's not gonna be a first round pick. No team's gonna draft him to start. Look at him now. Penix Jr. is gonna be unbelievable. He's gonna be unbelievable. Those are the 2 quarterbacks I believe will be the 2 rookies that become top 10, top 12 NFL quarterbacks, and hand in hand, because this isn't one of those situations where it won't go hand in hand. They'll both be, in my opinion, 2 of the top NFL and top fantasy quarterbacks. Top 12 at least. Penix Jr. is going to be absolutely unbelievable at the next level.
And I actually believe it. If it wasn't for JD5 in Washington, I mean, as a Washington fan myself, I thought either they were going to trade back if they were going to take JD5, which would have been dumb in my opinion if they wouldn't have taken JD5. But if it was anybody else, it would have been Michael Penix Jr. I don't know why, but that's who I would have been looking at, because they're the most NFL-ready guys. If you look at it, the statistics-wise, they tell you they're the most NFL-ready guys. Other than that, Smitty, I want to say thank you for having me on, and I hope these other guys that say that Caleb is better than JD5 call you up, and you can give them the business, brother. Have a good night.
Appreciate it, bro. Later. But to answer your question, bro, 1 QB, I don't hesitate to take him. I take him after, obviously, the running backs, the 2 running backs, Bowers, the 4 or 5 wide receivers. So it does push him in a 1 QB to the end of round 1, but I'm not shy about doing that anywhere near 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So hopefully that answers your question. And the Reaper says, $5 hauler, just finished my rookie draft. MHJ traded back into the first round to get Benson. Love that. And these idiots let Corley and Roman Wilson go undrafted. Smash. Reaper, appreciate your super chat, and you did absolutely an unbelievable job. You literally walked out with a top 10 future running back in Trey Benson. He's going to be unbelievable. You walked out with my number 1 overall Dynasty wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. I draft him in a Dynasty startup as the number 1 overall wide receiver taken. 100%. I don't care what anybody says. So you got a top 10 running back in Benson for the future. You got a top 1 wide receiver for the future, and I believe he's a top 5 wide receiver as a rookie. And you got a bunch of other great talent to mix into it. Fantastic job. And then Ian says top 5 tight ends. If we go to thefantasyfootballshow.com, which again, you can get 10% off. You can get a lifetime membership too. Get the 10% off the lifetime membership. I'm looking at the tight end rankings, and if we're going to go 2024, I'm going to say Laporta, McBride, Kelsey, Kincaid kind of tied, bro. And then it's like, a big cluster. I mean, from Mark Andrews down to Kittle, down to Kyle Pitts, down to even, Njoku, Ingram, and Goddard. Like, you don't know. Any one of those guys could be 5. Any one of them could be 7. Any one of them could be 10. Hawkinson's going to take some time. Ferguson, he could be good. He could be undervalued. And Njoku, if he could stay healthy, he'll be fantastic. Luke Musgrave's a big breakout. Honestly, you probably want to go with Kittle or Andrews or Kyle Pitts as the number 5, but don't be shocked if it's Ingram. It's Goddard. Goddard had a great year, with the receptions and targets, and I think the way the Eagles offense is going to get much better, and Barkley keeping the defense honest, Goddard's going to get back in the mix. I traded away Kyle Pitts in a trade because I had Goddard, and I wanted to do some of the moves we were talking about earlier because I have so much confidence in the Eagles offense, and I want every bit of it I can, and I love Goddard. So Goddard goes straight in, and I'm happy about Goddard as an underrated dark horse top 5, 6, 7 tight end in 2024. If it's Dynasty, you move Bowers up to like 2 or 3, or at least 3. I would say at least 3. I'd move Bowers to 3 or tied with Kincaid maybe. But Kincaid's like 3-4 argument as well. Like, you could say Kincaid climbs into the top 3 in Dynasty. You could say he's number 1 if you wanted to. He's fantastic. Phone lines are open. George from the Bay's on the phone. Before I get to this other... Actually, George, hang tight real quickly. Let me just get this news out of the way. Just hang right there. Hang right there. Xavier Leggett says that he admits that coaches told him he needed to work on his route running when he was interviewed by teams, and he's such a humble, likable guy. I love this guy, Xavier Leggett. Everybody loves his accent. People love hearing him talk, just like Keon Coleman. These guys are absolutely phenomenal in front of a mic, and Xavier Leggett is one of the most likable players that was drafted in this 2024 draft, and I really think that he's the perfect player. In hindsight, it might be, aside from Adunze, Neighbors, and MHJ, maybe this is the exact best player for Bryce Young, given Bryce Young needs to develop still, and this kid's catch radius is to the moon, and he's going to just, be the perfect fit for him. I think he's got a lot of DK to his game, and that's the perfect kind of player, you want for a still improving Bryce Young. And Ron calling again. Oh, no, there's Ron. Okay. Hang tight real quick, Ron. Let me get through this news real quick. But I love Leggett. I love Leggett. Roma Dunze is sitting out rookie minicamp with a hamstring tightness. This is something to monitor. Of course, these things happen, but definitely not what you want in terms of a start for him. So hopefully it's a very short amount of time, but we'll have to monitor this. This could turn into a bigger problem. The problem, we'll know there's a problem if he comes back, then has to sit again. Then things usually get worse. Whenever you injure something, even if it's tightness or a little bit of a strain, whenever you are out, right, and you sit out, and then you come back too early and you re-injure, you're almost always re-injuring past the point you originally were injured, like to. So you're going to make it worse. You're not going to go back to zero. You're going to go negative in terms of the progress. So we just have to they have to be very careful with them. Sam Darnold, it's fully expected by ESPN, this reporter right here, fully expected Sam Darnold begins the Vikings offseason program as the number one quarterback over first-round McCarthy. I want to be very, very careful, and, I don't want to be reckless with this comment because, in truth, I said the same thing about Baker and Trask walking into last offseason because they were throwing footballs over teammates' heads that were 7 yards down the field, and we're like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst offense in the National Football League. Baker looked like trash. He looked bad. He looked really, this isn't me being hard on him or something. He looked like a garbage can, and Trask looked just as bad. They were overthrowing wide receivers, not one time, not two times, multiple times over their head, not even catchable, like 7-8 yards down the field. And so look how Baker did. So I want to preface this and be careful and say you can't judge, a player on something like this early, but there's some footage of McCarthy making some throws, and he was not perfect. It was said very, very, much by multiple reporters that he didn't have a great, first showing, etc. And there's this one footage in particular, he's throwing with the coach, and he's just throwing like, I don't know, it was like 10 yards away, and he's just like playing catch too, and he just throws it like over his head, and everyone was freaking out about it. And I think people are overreacting to a degree, but because it's one throw. This guy obviously can throw 10 yards down the field. No one's trying to say that, but then you hear this report, that you see all the freaking out. Then you start to remember that he is coming in with a lot of question marks, and it's just something to like keep in mind that the team and his nerves and everything else that we've seen so far does suggest that Darnold does have the advantage. And this is something different than what we're hearing, in other places. Drake May and McCarthy both are probably most likely out of the rookies to be not starting week one. And there's another report here. This one's from Jeff Howe. A minute-by-minute look at Drake May's first public Patriots practice. He has a lot to work on. There's a lot of people reporting about the similar things, not overthrowing players necessarily or coaches, but just that he's got a long way to go. And the Briskinator may be starting week one. We'll see. I think it's kind of smart with these two guys because I do believe McCarthy and Drake May are projects more than they're plug-and-play NFL ready. Penix Jr. is an NFL-ready quarterback. JD5 is an NFL-ready quarterback. And Caleb is way more ready, I think, than either of May and JJ McCarthy. And I'm not gonna ever tell you that Caleb doesn't have talent. He 100% has talent. He's got near, you could say, college prospect elite talent. It's the other things that I talked about earlier, the intangibles, the mannerisms, all the other things that like literally do actually factor into whether somebody's successful, especially a quarterback. Like the Johnny Manziel, the Josh Rosens, the different components and facets and quirks and little tiny details of a player's behavior, how they speak, how they lead, what do they do? Like all those things affect my evaluation process. And I could be wrong on Caleb. He could clean it all up. There's definitely room for that. But he is, I just want to say, very much ready and he is named the starter, and that's not a mistake. Like you made this commitment, you've got to see what he's going to do. I don't think it's a mistake necessarily to sit May for a couple games and get the Briskinator out of everybody's system so that they aren't like calling for Brissett to come in like after 2 bad games. You want to almost like with these situations, because McCarthy and May are kind of, not as polished. You don't want those starters to be called upon. You almost want them to go in and look like Sam Darnold and Jacoby Brissett. Now, Brissett might go out and look pretty good, but if you start winning games, then you keep him in. It's not a big deal. It's not a problem. But if he looks pretty good and they're losing week 2, week 3, week 4, you start conversating behind closed doors about, okay, he looks good, but we're not winning, so we're going to put in Drake May. So I do think Drake May and McCarthy absolutely start early on, but they are trending of all the big name quarterbacks the most likely to not start. And of course, Penix Jr., there's a hope that he doesn't play all year long. There's a hope he doesn't play for 2 straight years. That is the hope that the Atlanta Falcons have. And everybody that rips on the Atlanta Falcons process here, they have secured the most important position in football, and nobody has one up on them in terms of job security, in terms of quarterback security, which has a trickle-down effect. And as Raheem Morris said, you lose your quarterback, and Zach Robinson too, both coming from the Rams, said you lose your quarterback. We lose Stafford, we're not even a playoff team. We're not even close to a playoff team if we lose Stafford. And if we have Stafford, we have 2 Staffords, we're making the playoffs. And so that's Raheem Morris's attitude. And this is not a mistake or a kind of weird, like at the last minute they drafted him. This was in the plan. Now, they poorly executed on one level in terms of how they told Kirk Cousins, but apparently they felt like if they told him it would get out. So they decided to make that decision, which it could create a little bit of a divide there. And it certainly wasn't the best way to approach it, but that's the one mistake they made. Bringing Penix Jr. in was not a mistake. Signing Kirk Cousins was not a mistake in terms of the business side of it, the football side of it, the protective side of it. But he certainly will not be expected to play at all, and that's the hope. But JD5, Caleb, and JD5, Caleb, and well, I mean, you could say McCarthy or May gets in there at some point, but I think JD5 and Caleb are absolutely, locked and loaded starting week 1 in my mind. Let me go over real quickly. Oh, this last piece of news here. This supports what we're just talking about. So, where is it at? Rookie QB Roundup Minicamps Edition. Penix Jr. from Atlanta Falcons. Caleb Williams, private legwork on Bears offense. Drake May outlook. Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler is another interesting quarterback. All the reports on Penix Jr. was he looked phenomenal. JD5 was, I think, 12 of 12 in his 7-on-7 drills. And you can make fun of that if you want and say, oh, he's 12 on 12 in shorts, whatever. But he looked phenomenal. Everybody said he was 12 on 12, 7 out of 7, perfect. I'm sorry, 7-on-7, 12 out of 12, perfect. And looked the part, looked fantastic, throwing tight spirals, hitting everybody in stride. Like JD5 looked polished as hell in the 7-on-7s. And then in the 7-on-7s in Atlanta, the word was there were a bunch of drops because Penix Jr. was throwing darts and missiles, and everybody kept dropping the football because he was throwing it too hard, and these rookie receivers couldn't hang on to it, and everybody was laughing because the missiles were absolutely on target and looked fantastic. So far, when this whole episode here is about who looks the part. Penix Jr. looks the part in camp. JD5 looks the part in camp. And to be honest, and I'm always going to be objective, unbiased, Caleb so far, it looks good. Like he's not doing anything that makes me come out and say, oh, Caleb was throwing errant passes. They were not tight spirals. He was throwing balls into the dirt. Like what we've seen of Caleb so far has been just fine in terms of throwing the football down the field. Nice little throws. So Caleb's looking good as well, looking the part as of this moment. Doesn't change how I feel about the other parts, but from a mechanics perspective, Caleb looks the part, JD looks the part, Penix Jr. looks the part. McCarthy, shaky, it's early. And May, a little shaky, not as shaky as McCarthy, but it's early. And that's the rookie QB roundup. And my stances on Penix Jr. and JD5. They're absolutely my 1 and 2 monsters, risers of the future. George from the Bay was waiting a while. But Ron, did you have something you wanted to? Ron can step above you because of Ron's super chat half Mars man status that he has. Anybody has had Mars cards in the past. Ron, what did you want to let George go first, or you got something you got on your mind you want to get off your chest real quick?
No. Let George go.
Ron's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. He says, George, go. George, you're live.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. Thanks, Smitty. I 100% agree with you with the take on these 3 rookie quarterbacks. Those are my 3 favorite. I've been swooping them up in best ball drafts, left and right, stacking them with their players. And Penix has been going undrafted in a lot of the drafts, and I'm hoping, I know Ron's probably not going to like the take, but I'm hoping that Cousins gets benched or at least doesn't play for at least half the season, and Penix just runs away with the job. Because I love Penix in Atlanta. I think that offense in Atlanta is going to be way better with him. He can move, and he's a gunslinger, like you're saying. In practice, these kids are dropping the ball because he's throwing missiles.
Bro, he's throwing darts. There's footage of those darts, tight spirals. He just looks the part. Again, I've been made fun of for this I guess, a way of explaining scouting, but I'm telling you, it dates back to those kinds of things. Like when you're a track coach or you're identifying, runners and athletes, the specimens on the track, you literally can tell. Like you look at Penix Jr. and you say, this guy, there are other things, other intangibles, just like Caleb. And I'll say this, Caleb does throw a good ball. He throws the ball down the field well. There's a lot of things that do pop out the same way that I'm describing out of JD5 and Penix. Not the same, not exactly, not as much, but I can at least admit that there's talent in Caleb's game that does pop out a little bit like this. But Penix Jr., you just see him go out there and zip it. As if Denny was here, Denny would say the kid can zip it. He can throw all over the field. He can drop it in the breadbasket. He's got the charisma and the command of the boys in the huddle. Everybody respects this man. And some people say he's too old. I kind of think it's an advantage of his, and everybody, when somebody has like a deficiency and it makes them stronger elsewhere, whatever the case may be, his injuries in his past, being older than everybody, it's made him a better player. It's made him who he is right now, who he's meant to be right now. And he's still young enough to where he could have a 15, 18-year career. So who cares about being, a year or two older than the average quarterback coming into the pros? It's different. It's not a running back where the shelf life is 4 to 5 years and you're done. Like, this is a quarterback position. We saw Kurt Warner become a Hall of Famer. And I think Kurt Warner's first start wasn't until and I'm not saying you want this, but it was like 27. Was he 27 years old? I think he's 27, 28, something like that. Kurt Warner, old rookie. I think he's 27. And look at his Hall of Fame career. So I don't really want to hear it about his age. And he's shaken free the injury label. He played 2 straight years without injuries. And everybody keeps talking about injuries that were over now 4 years ago. So, yeah, he goes out there and zips it. JD5 can zip it. JD5 is the best pocket passer in college football in 2023 and the last decade. There hasn't been a better pocket passer than JD5 in 10 years that's come out of college, statistically backed up. And I'm still waiting for the Caleb supporters and haters of JD5 to call in because they seem to think it's crazy. Hang tight real quick, George. I'm going to come back to you. Ron Navy, you are live, young man.
Yeah. No, I disagree, of course, with George because I think Penix is only going to benefit from sitting behind Cousins for a year, or if not 2, and it gives him an opportunity to learn. And plus, I was listening to Sirius XM, the guys on there, Pat Curran and them, and they were saying that Atlanta, he's not even going to get reps in the preseason stuff because you always got those guys that are on defense that are, trying to make a name for themselves, trying to make the team. They're not going to put Penix in that position where he gets injured. So he's not going to get the reps. They're going to concentrate on him getting the playbook down and getting the terminology down and understanding all that, but they're not going to put him in jeopardy. So he'll be ready if something does happen to Cousins, but I'm hoping nothing happens to Cousins because Penix,
I hear you.
Early,
I hear you.
If he's not there too early, I think that could jeopardize him. I think he needs at least a year. I think he needs to sit behind at least a year, kind of like Love did, and that'll benefit him greatly. Because just look, when he was forced to face a defense like Michigan, he didn't have a great game. And
but he's faced a lot of good. I know you said this before. I know you said this before that you think the defensive slate he had was so minuscule, and I get your point. I'm not saying that there aren't schedules that were way harder. I'm not trying to argue that, but I think to suggest, and a lot of people have, that Penix folded under the first tough game he had, I think that's unfair. Not to mention this was the best defense in college football. They're supposed to do this to anybody, So and on top of that, he had no help from his wide receivers. They were dropping balls, running wrong routes. Guy had a heart of gold, and I think that I rewatched it even, and I'm like, knowing what I know, knowing that these receivers like Odunze ran the wrong route, and so he threw this pass that looked like he overthrew Odunze the wrong direction. Odunze would have had a touchdown if he'd have just run the right route. So I get what you're saying. But I think my whole thing is this. I think that being 36, I just think that at some point, Cousins will have some scare that will give an open door. Now, how does the team react? Do they say, you know what, we're going to let Cousins go out there on the field and play, even though he's got tightness? Because we don't want to create a controversy yet. And do they feel like they can make those risky moves? And maybe they do because they have this backed up or whatever. But like the thing is, like at 36, I do believe there will be a moment where Cousins has a chance, whether they take it or not, to be shut down for a week or two. And I think that given where the team's at, if they're winning, they've got a playoff shot. They didn't screw the first half of the season up or something. And in that case, they would just bring Penix in if they're losing under Cousins. I don't think they'll be losing under Cousins. I think the Falcons are going to be amazing. I think that this coaching staff is going to be one of the most revered coaching staffs coming out of the 2024 moves that we saw happen. And I think Raheem Morris will be up for Coach of the Year. I don't know if he'll win it, but I think that this will be an unbelievable year that will be led by Kirk Cousins for as long as Kirk Cousins can lead it. It could be all year long. I do think it could be all year long. And we do know the team wants it to be all year long. And literally, Doc Holliday had tuberculosis and he feared nothing. He feared nothing. And Doc Holliday he was never scared of a showdown. He's never scared of one individual. He had nothing to lose. And I feel like my Doc Holliday's Raheem Morris. He has nothing to fear. And he's going to go out there and gunsling with Kirk Cousins and put it all out there. And I think his goal is let's make the Penix Jr. drafting not a mistake, but something we don't even have to look at for 2 years, and let people 2 years from now say, oh, here's that investment you made 2 years ago. Let's see if he's Jordan Love or not. I think he truly wants that. Raheem Morris wants that more than anything, because the moment you go to Penix Jr., that means something happened to Cousins, and now you don't have your safety blanket anymore. Now you're down to one quarterback like everybody else. That's not where you want to be. So I agree, Ron, and I think it's going to take either an injury or bad play, and I don't think that'll be the case for Penix Jr. to see the field. But I think my prediction is I think it will be by week 8 or 9 or 10. Week 8, 9, or 10.
Well, yeah, I already know you already know my bold prediction, but I don't think it's going to happen to either. But I think Penix Jr. with his talent, and he's got a ton of it, I think he'd be better off just learning behind Kurt for a year or two, and that's going to make him even all that much better when he does take the field, because he's going to take the field. It's just when.
Yeah.
And, at least a year or two, because Atlanta's not investing all that guaranteed money in Kirk Cousins to have him sit on the bench. Penix, they're paying him, rookie pay, and they can always have the 5th-year option. So they're in no hurry. They don't have to start him right away.
Yeah. I mean, I know they don't have to. They don't want to. They're not going to. But again, it comes down to just predicting, which is a total prediction game. We don't know how it's going to go. So
well, and everything's. I mean, we're sitting here with all these players, and anything could happen to any player at any time, and we know that. Look, Tank Dell was lighting it up last year, right? And then all of a sudden, one little bad play where he's in the middle of a scrum and he gets his leg broken, boom, that's the end of his season. It's like that stuff happens all the time. And it can really mess up your fantasy football teams when stuff like that happen. But
yeah. George, what else you got? George? Oh, go ahead, Ron. You got something else?
No, I did make my picks. I took Sonat and I took Wilson.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I like
that all works out.
I like those. I like those selections. I think Sinnett's going to be freaking unbelievable. I love that more than anything. I love that Adam Peters loves him because that just kind of confirms that he's the real deal. Because Adam Peters knows ball.
He's gonna be a plug and play right there with JD5. I mean, he can block. He has that. He has good route running. So he's gonna work well with JD5 in Washington. So yeah. I think he's gonna be a JD5 security.
Yeah.
So.
Rockout says JD5 will have a lot of top 5 Sports Center moments. That's no doubt about it. I really think you remember how AR5 a couple weeks into the season we started to say, oh my God, this guy now is replacing my quarterback. It could be Herbert, it could be even Joe Burrow, which is why I drafted him in the league that Ron's talking about that we're in together. It's a follower league, and I took JD5 and I've got Burrow. It's a 1 QB because I truly believe that I'm taking a top 1 to 5 fantasy football quarterback. And quarterback is such an important position to me. I'm like the Falcons. I put my money where my mouth is. I walk the walk when it comes to doing what the Falcons did in real life and fantasy too. With all the quarterbacks that went down last year, for people to not feel that way this year, it's kind of head scratching to me that people don't want a good top 10 potential backup quarterback. People just want to say, I don't need to go that route. I'd rather get another wide receiver. Honestly, I'd rather take a gamble on a later wide receiver versus taking a pretty sound wide receiver. I'd rather go get a sleeper wide receiver or running back, etc. And, or take a gamble on a backup tight end that's just a little bit more upside, like Luke Musgrave over a more secure option and get that quarterback. To get JD5 and Burrow, to get JD5 and another guy similar to him, it's going to leave you in some dilemmas, but I think JD5 is going to be unreal by midseason. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be, I hate to say this, and Sick Nasty might be in here, but and again, I am admitting I falsely, prematurely judged Baker, and I don't think Baker is going to thrive for years and years. I think he had a really good year. The current report now is he still has a chip on his shoulder. He could have another good year. I'm not trying to write him off. I just think that my questions about him are not going to go away very easily. And if he had a really good report already, and it's very early, that would help me, and it's not helping me. So I'm still kind of in the same place. It's not that I think he's a bust. I don't see JJ McCarthy as a Kirk Cousins replacement on any level at all. To give Ron's favorite player respect, there's no way McCarthy's slinging the rock like he did. Even if he ends up being the real deal, he's going to be a little bit more of a game manager than he is going to be an absolute gunslinging monster that can feed Addison, Hawkinson when he's healthy, and JJ. The amount of volume that was getting divvied up between the three of them, I don't think he can deliver that. I don't think he's that kind of quarterback. So I worry about JJ's value a little bit. I think he hogs more of it than anybody else. Maybe Addison and Hawkinson both take a little bit of a dip, and JJ takes a little bit of a dip. But I do not see the offense being replicated the same way. You know, in hindsight, you know, Ron's always said Cousins should stay. And I've said that I kind of agree for JJ, right? I'd rather have Cousins in Atlanta, though, and have JJ still survive, you know, and get a shot at JJ McCarthy being good enough to make JJ good. And now Atlanta's got, you know, who they got. But now that Penix Jr. is there, you know, part of me is like, damn, it does in a way suck that we have no gunslinger in Minnesota and we got 2 gunslingers in Atlanta, which I love for Atlanta. I wouldn't take it away for anything, and it's brilliant. But we are kind of like juggling what we want, right? Because there's a give and a take somewhere. And JJ's getting taken from, which is why he's falling to number 6 overall, 7 overall. You know?
Yeah, I was hoping. I know we were all hoping that Penix Jr. would go to Minnesota. I think that was the best team for him to go. I mean, yeah, I think if he sits behind Cousins for a year or two, he'll be even more better. But we don't know with JJ because he was under that Harbaugh offense. So, I mean, I'm kind of staying open-minded on him because I don't think we've seen everything he's capable of doing. I mean, he can run the ball. He's mobile, and but I think under Harbaugh's offense, I mean, look, he didn't even play the last quarter in a lot of those Michigan football games, right? So it's like I don't think we've seen his ceiling at all. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we could be surprised. We could be pleasantly surprised, or we could be like, yeah, that's what I thought he was going to be, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. But George from the Bay, what else you got? I think you'd be happy that I took Ricky Pearsall in this draft that Ron and I are talking about. I have Debo, Hopkins, and Christian Watson as my 3 wide receivers, so I'm a little bit light at wide receiver. But I have unbelievable running backs and quarterback situation, and I love my tight end situation. I have Goddard, who I like a lot this year. I like Goddard as a very sneaky top 5-6. You know, if I need to make a move anywhere, especially trading up in a rookie draft, kind of my go-to is to trade a player like Kyle Pitts into a Goddard to make a rookie move up somewhere to get into like the first round or top of round 2 or something to get like the JD5, because I really like Goddard this year. But I've got Goddard at tight end. I've got Breece Hall, Achane, and Kyren. I've got Kyren Cuff. So my running backs are Hall, Kyren, and Achane. I believe I have 3 top 5-6 potential running backs. I got JD5 and Burrow, 1 QB, but I'm totally covered there. And I got Debo, I've got Hopkins, and I've got Christian Watson. You know, a little worried about that. Yeah, I got Corum Cuff to Kyren. And then I have Ricky Pearsall, who I just drafted, to cuff to Debo in a way. And this is like a crafty type of move, I think, in Dynasty, because if you think about it, you've got Debo right now and Ayuk, okay? And Ayuk's not going anywhere. He's not going to get traded. Debo still, there's a small possibility that, you know, something happens with that, but Debo's probably not getting traded. Debo's probably the more likely to get hurt. Anything can happen, as Ron just said. Anybody can go down, but this is the guy you're always worried about, the mileage, played running back for a whole year practically. So if he goes down, then Pearsall jumps right in. So I'm cuffing, you know, this situation very, very nicely. And if this is in 2020, so 2024, if Debo goes down, Pearsall jumps straight in. But if Debo in 2025 gets traded, and I think he will be somewhere in 2025, now all of a sudden Pearsall jumps up, and I've got a 2025 starter in Pearsall and a 2025 starter in Debo, and I end up having a really, really good situation. So I love the move. It's a crafty cuff. I think it's, you know, you could cuff him to either wide receiver. You could cuff him to Ayuk, but I think in a dynasty setting, it's better to cuff him to Debo, because then you're going to have these two players likely on different teams come 2025. And that's what you want. You don't really want both Niners starters in a non-best ball draft. And really best ball, I don't love stacking the 2 wide receivers anyway. I like stacking the quarterback and a wide receiver or something to that nature. But to have Debo and Pearsall is even better than having, I think, Pearsall and Ayuk. They both can work in similar fashion, but this is a a crafty move that I pulled off in this draft, and it makes me feel really secure. So I got the JD5 and Burrow quarterbacks, bunk betting together in a 1 QB, and I've got Debo and Pearsall. I've got Corum and Kyron. So I've done some good backing up and some safety moves that are similar to the way the Atlanta Falcons, operated with their quarterback draft selection and free agency moves this offseason, which is why I'm so in tune with that thinking. When the Falcons did it, I loved it. Not to mention, who couldn't love what the Falcons did from a fantasy perspective if you're a Bijan or London or Kyle Pitts owner? All I hear are people complaining about it. And it's especially in the space that I'm in, even in the fantasy space, I can't get my head around it. People should be saying thank you to the Atlanta Falcons and to Raheem Morris. Fantasy worlds, I shouldn't hear one complainer about it. They should be saying thank you. Thank you, sir. Travis, you're live.
Hey, Smitty, how's it going?
I'm good, bro. I'm fantastic.
I missed the beginning of the show, so forgive me if you went over this about rookie quarterbacks, but do you think Nick starts, or do you think they go with Stidham to start the year?
That's another one that's up in the air. May, I think, doesn't start, for at least for right now. That could change easily, but for right now, I feel like May's not going to start. I feel like McCarthy's not going to start. I think that these guys will not feel ready enough. They don't want to break them, and they've got competent. Right. The Vikings think they have a competent backup. We all hate Sam Darnold, but Brissett's a competent backup. So you don't want the competent backup licking his chops and you're like, oh my God, all these growing pains. How many games do we lose? In Brissett, if he was to win games, like I was saying to Ron earlier, if Brissett's winning games, you keep him in. And it's no harm, no foul. You don't even do it. You don't even consider putting in May if you're winning games. Right. But if he's playing really well and not winning games, you can easily take him out and put May in. No one's going to say, they're not going to say, oh, Brissett's playing so good, but we're losing. Keep Brissett in. So it's a win-win for Drake May. And it pretty much is the same way for Darnold, you could say. But it is kind of like telling everybody you're not going to plan on making the playoffs this year if you're Minnesota, in my opinion. Because everyone knows Sam Darnold's not going to be a playoff contending. Maybe they don't know that, but I mean, to me, I just can't. I can't envision somebody saying, I'd rather be wrong on McCarthy if I believe I've got a playoff shot than actually try and convince people that I really believed that we could maybe make the playoffs with Sam Darnold as our quarterback. So I think it's more about developing JGM. You what?
Yeah, that's the tough part about that situation is that the Vikings should be a playoff team, with the offensive talent they have.
I know.
Whereas, the Patriots, everyone knows they're rebuilding.
That's why Ron had a problem with Cousins leaving.
Tougher.
That's why Ron had a problem with Cousins leaving. But I didn't necessarily have a problem with Cousins leaving. I had a problem with them taking JJM as a solution because I don't think he's ready. That was why they should have traded up to get Penix Jr. Everybody telling me I was absolutely out of my mind that Penix Jr. would be a top 10 pick. Any team that thought he was going to slip, well, guess what? Joke's on them. And Minnesota should have done what they should have traded up to 6 to take him. You know what I mean? Or traded up to 5. Trade up to 5. And they had the firepower to do it. Maybe they just couldn't pull it off, but they tried, calling about the 3. But I don't know how much they tried using what was their picks? 20, what'd they have? They had
11 and 23.
Yeah, 11 and 23. Trading that for the number 5, I think would have maybe got it done. I just don't know if they made that exact offer. And that was worth Penix Jr. Penix Jr. was worthy of going in the top 6 overall. And you got all these people that are shocked he went in the top 10. Just like Jahmyr Gibbs, they're a team. Everyone said, oh, the Lions screwed up. How does that look now? Where's one of those people now? They're not in here. They're not bold enough to say that was me. They've either scattered like cockroaches or they're just quiet right now. But there were so many people that came in and said, oh, the Lions screwed up. They took Jahmyr Gibbs too early. People said that about Atlanta. They took Penix Jr. too early. Why would you take him inside the top 10? Nobody would have. He would have fallen to the he would have fallen to the second round. These people don't know what they're talking about. There were people constantly chattering about how teams were trying to move up to get Penix Jr. and they thought they were going to have to move up to 6, 7, 8, and they didn't do it. And they should have. They should have done it. The Vikings should have done it. The Vikings will be a playoff contending team if they drafted Penix Jr. They might even be potentially a little more playoff contending with Bo Nix. But I think that J.J. and May, as much as I think they have upside, I especially think May has more upside than J.J. But they're projects. They're not ready right now. And so I think the Patriots know that. And back to Nix real quick to answer your question, then I'll let you rebuttal. Do I think Bo Nix starts week 1? I think that one I'd be reckless to give you a guess on because I have no idea. He just signed his deal, I think, today, and today or yesterday. And I don't have a good read on how he's like speccing out. So let's just wait a couple days on that. But if I had to guess, I would say maybe not. And then he comes in just like I think JJ, Bo Nix, and JJ McCarthy. Two of them don't start right away, and maybe all three don't.
Because Stidham is another guy who is like, he's a serviceable backup. He could start a few games if they want to, keep Nix on the bench for a little. But the thing with the Vikings that I don't get is if they, obviously they like McCarthy, but if they drafted him and said, okay, we truly believe in him so much that he can start right away and we can compete with him, I'd understand them drafting him more because, like we just said, they better think that he can start soon because I don't see the point in taking him and pushing off another year with their offensive talent. I mean, they still got to sign JJ, and Hawkinson's another year older, and, Addison, it's less development for Addison. So it just, when you have a team that can win, I don't like the idea of pushing it off another year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. What do you let me go around the room here. Let me go to Ron. What is JD5's ceiling for you? And I'm not saying on the year because he could start off slow or whatever, but by the time the season comes to a conclusion, what's his max value he could have right then? You're walking into the next season, where is he ranking? AR5, right now. What, and what's his floor?
Oh. There's a lot of quarterback competition out there. So, if you think about it, I think he easily finishes in the top 10.
Well, not finishes, though, but what's he prospecting to be 2020? At the end of the year, the vibe you get, the feel you get, where is he ranking for you at the end of the year talking 2025? Is he in your top 6, top 7?
If he's able to use the players that he has, like Dotson and McLaurin, and because we were big on Howell last year too, and Howell didn't pan out. So, I'm hoping he's a different prospect. Top 6, maybe top 6.
Okay.
You got Hall, you got Burrow, you got all those veterans. Allen. It's gonna be hard first year to crack that.
Okay, George, what's your ceiling value?
Yeah, I agree with Ron. There's a lot of good quarterbacks. This quarterback pool is just so deep. Next year is going to be crazy. But JD5 is my number one rookie quarterback. I think he could be top 10, pushing top 10. I'd probably say he finishes close to 11 or 10 this year. I project him at 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns. He'll probably run 5 in. So he's going to have a good year, but there's so many. Well,
I'm not talking about this year. Again, let me say it again. Third time. George. Where do you think he is for 2025 based on the vibe and feel you have by the end of the year? Where are you drafting him as QB what? Because of his season. I know it's going to be a slow start, but
I can answer it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's 10. He's 10 for me.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Travis.
I think his ceiling, if he hits his ceiling, he has. I think he's got traits in passing of C.J. Stroud and running of Lamar. So I could see people putting him. I mean, after this season, people were putting C.J. Stroud near the top 5. So I could see people drafting him as a top 3 or 4 quarterback if he hits his ceiling.
Yeah, I like that.
If he hits his floor, I have him, maybe where like a Kyler is right now, back end of top 10, top 12.
Yeah,
I think he could climb. It's high. I'm not saying he will, but
yeah.
if he hits that ceiling.
I think it's gonna be hard to climb above.
Passing.
It's gonna be hard to climb above like Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts if they all have the years that I think they can have. Like if Mahomes had another bad year, I could see him falling out of the top 5 for a lot of people. And then he could pop back in or whatever, but he will potentially. But I think JD5, just like some people you'll see in the chat will go, AR5 is going to be QB1 this year. You watch, like a lot of people love AR5. I think there'll be some advocates for that, coming into the 2025 season. You'll see a lot of people wanting to be first on saying that. So there'll be some advocates, but the ADP will suggest that he is the 4th or 5th quarterback taken. But I would say top 5. I think his ceiling is going to be inside the top 5 for 2025 drafted quarterbacks. And his floor, honestly, if he doesn't get hurt, I think is number 8. I think he's got such a high floor. We got a $50 hauler from Lancaster who dropped a doozy on everybody. This one might be one of the boldest ones. Superfish had a bold one. This might be bolder. Sam Darnold will start more games than J.J. McCarthy and have more points per starting game than the entire rookie class.
Whoa. That's bold.
That's like setting them right on the table, bro. That's a bold ballsy statement right there. That is great. Lancaster, appreciate the $50 hauler. All $50 haulers get a bold prediction on the board. Let's put it up there. Sam Darnold will start more games than JJM.
$50. Give me $50 holler. I get by the brother Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
What is today? Today is
12th. The 12th. Well, technically it's the 12th now.
It's 11th.
It's right. Yeah. Oh, it's still the 11th where you are.
Still the 11th for me. So 5-11. Lancaster, who says that almost forgot his name. Darnold. Darnold starts more games. Is that what it says? Starts more games. Let me put it on screen here.
Yep. J.J. McCarthy.
Starts more games than J.J. Okay, JJM.
Oh, that's a little qualifier, though. It's kind of a 2-tiered bold prediction because it's more points per starting game.
Then JJM. And is the per game. So you're saying, yeah, I mean, like, he could still, but it's still bold, though. If like, let's say Darnold goes out and plays 2 games and he blows up and then gets injured, he still kind of called a bold call. Like, you're telling me this guy's going to outscore JD5? Even one game outscored JD5 on the year? Like, JD5's got 17 cracks potentially at it. And if Darnold does get hurt in week 1, it has 1 game. You're telling me JJM can't beat him out with 17 cracks at it? It's still damn bold. It's still damn bold. And outscores all rookie QBs per start. Wow.
Remember the year Darnold had, like, what was it, the first 4 or 5 games he had rushing touchdowns in every game when it was Carolina? And everyone thought he had turned it around and become a good quarterback. Then he just came crashing back to earth.
I'll never forget all the Darnold hype. It was so out of control. It was so out of control. And I didn't like him at all. I liked him 0. Another player I liked about I disliked as much, and it's weird that I correlate these two because I remember like Deontay's been one of them too. Deontay, if I had to throw down four players I've disliked more than the masses by such an extreme that it makes me want to vomit. Is Deontay his entire career, Cam Akers his entire career, Eddie Lacy, and that one was rough for me because he was really good in the beginning, but he ended up becoming what I thought he'd become. But so, you know, I that guy was a total bust to me coming into the NFL, and he was so good for just a short period of time, but he completely fizzled out exactly
Three
like
seasons.
Yeah. So that one, it was hard to watch the beginning of it, but it ended up feeling pretty good when Dynasty people traded him, and they're like, damn, glad I traded him, Smitty, thank God. And then Sam Darnold is one of them. I wouldn't say he's as high as those guys, but Sam Darnold, people were so high on Sam Darnold. I didn't understand it. I don't get it. I don't get how the Niners, I think, loved him because he was a Niner. I don't think they really, really liked him. They're just like, he's a Niner and we love him. But I mean, you got some of the beat writers there writing ridiculous things. That Matt Maialco guy said that, I think that's their head San Francisco beat writer, and he said that he throws a better football than anybody ever in the history of the organization, over Montana, over Steve Young. He throws a better football. Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I think Rockout actually had a super chat saying something about that a minute ago.
Rockout says, but the 49ers said Sam Darnold is the best passer. Yes, Rockout, thank you. Rockout just in the nick of time. Nice one, Rockout. Thank you, Lancaster, for the $50 hauler. That's a bold one, bro. That is a bold one. Ron, you've got a lot of you got a lot of $50 haulers you could drop at any moment. You feeling anything right now? Ron's got a tab.
Yeah, definitely got a nice tab on.
Because he dropped the biggest super chat of the year, so or lifetime. So he's got an open tab on these $50 haulers for quite a while. Ron, you're on mute. You got anything?
Hello?
You're on mute,
Ron's
taking a nap.
He might have fell asleep. Guess he got tired of hearing anti-Cousins material, so he just fell asleep.
No, the one thing is Darnold probably has more weapons than he's ever had this year. So that's the one thing going for him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a bold one, though. I mean, you're talking about like
it is.
Over the course of a season, it can't be correct. But if he does go out, well, actually, no, he can't win this one, right? I mean, he can't win this one because he either starts more games than JJM, so he's starting a significant amount of games, and then per start, I mean, that's gonna be a significant amount of games. Yeah, so he's kind of that man. That's if he lands that, he's winning the whole thing by far. But that's like a
right. Yeah, that's what I said. It's like a two-tiered one.
Yeah,
clear both of those.
I think. Yeah, that's why I thought you were saying that it was two-tiered, like he gets out of it, but he doesn't get out of it because he has to win that first part of it. I think the odds of him getting struck by lightning while taking a dump in an outhouse in the forest that's more likely than his prediction working out, though. At an abandoned construction site for an Area 51, like off-site. Like all those things have to happen in order for that's about equal odds right there. I think all that together.
He clarified it in the chat.
It's not or. It's not or, it's and. Lancaster doesn't do that.
And he said
Lancaster
he said something else too.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around. He doesn't dance around or say, "Oh, well, if he gets hurt, the whole deal's off." Lancaster says, "No, I put him on the table, and I'm standing by it." I love it.
Then he qualified how many starts, though.
Yeah, okay. He doesn't
got a little bolder.
Yeah, Hawkinson definitely won't be healthy for a while, but we'll see. JJM already looking good, in my opinion, says Matt O. I don't agree with that. I mean, the reports don't indicate that either. And the video footage, really. I mean, everything. But it's not like he looks horrible. It's just like you aren't getting like glaring reviews, like JD5 and Penix Jr. are getting absolute amazing reviews. And Penix Jr., that footage of him throwing these missiles and these rookies couldn't catch it. It was too hard. He was throwing these darts. And JD5 in 7-on-7 was 12 out of 12 and looked so efficient, commanding everything. I love JD5. Jonathan Brooks ACL surgery and Bowers tight rub surgery. I'm out, I think, says Ethan. I don't know why you'd be out on those guys, bro. They're rookies. From a redraft sense, I guess, you're paying such cheap value to cost of entry to get in. I don't know that there's anything to worry about from a redraft sense. I mean, you're talking about 7 and 8 round value for Jonathan Brooks, bro. I mean, just put him on your bench and wait. Didn't Breece Hall teach you anything? It's not that all ACL tears are the same. I said that all offseason last year. Everybody trying to act like, well, Smitty, you're the one that told me that J.K. Dobbins and Barkley were avoids. But they were avoids because they weren't ready. Breece Hall was ready. He was ahead of schedule. It's a completely different thing. And he was a young man. Certain age group, little age bracket makes a big difference, whether you tear it at 21, 22, 23 versus 25, 24. And Barkley was a pretty good candidate to return and be a monster the day one because he had strong quads. That's a huge component as well. Quad strength and ACL recoveries are your ACL and your knee tightness is very, very much quad related and quad geared. So, Barkley on paper looked like he'd be an ideal bounce back candidate, but he wasn't ready. He was behind schedule, and it was clear as day. Brooks, unless we hear that he gets behind schedule, and he's not, everything I hear is fine. You're not going to use him in week 1 necessarily, or worry about that. You're gonna have him down the stretch, and you're not paying the price of a starting running back. You're paying a 7th and 8th round value, which packages that in. So I wouldn't be out on Brooks, bro. And long term, he'll be fine. I love Brooks. But I would say Benson's better. I like Benson better. I dropped Benson ahead of Jonathan Brooks. Unless I feel like the ADP allows me to get both of them by going Brooks first and Benson second if I'm doing some hero running back strategy. And those are 2 running backs I'm gobbling up in the 7th and 8th round. I'll call in week 5 about this specifically. I'll call next week about best ball when the schedule drops. Yeah, we'll be doing that Wednesday. That'd be great. I can't wait for the schedule.
Did you see Lancaster? Lancaster said before he said it's not or, he said starts at least 9 games and beats the rookie class.
At least 9 games? Wait, what?
Yeah, that's what he said before the chat where he said it's not or. Before that, he said starts at least 9 and beats rookie class. If you look at his messages.
That he'll start 9 games?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's more than half the season.
Yeah, it's good. That's good, bro. MHJ sets rookie wide receiver receiving record in 2024. Yeah, that'd be a great one to drop, Matto. No one's got it up there yet. He's my number 1. I mean, I think he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver this year. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a redraft top 5 wide receiver, and I think he's everybody's 1 or 2, but he'll be my 1 walking in. Ty Lee has a bold prediction. You got to drop it in the $50 hauler fashion, Ty Lee. No one's going to screenshot nothing. You don't get in this contest that way. Smitty absolutely nailed the
prediction. They're bold.
Nailed the Breece Hall comeback. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you. Remember how many people were like, I'm out on Hall. I'll come back in 2025. And we're like, okay.
Yep.
We'll see you then. we'll see you in 2025. Smitty, we liken the Bears wide receivers at ADP. Not really, man. DJ Moore's going too high. Keenan Allen, I don't trust. And Adunze, I guess, if you could get him late, but promo code Smitty, that's right. I'm not in love with the Bears. I quietly like the Commanders situation better than I like the Bears situation because that encompasses JD5 as well. It's not like it's like if we're comparing JD5's tools to Caleb's tools, I get the argument, but I still think Washington's right there. I mean, especially if Eckler has anything left in the tank, but if you include JD5, Washington's better than Chicago. That's just my take. You can get mad at that all you want. People have said it was crazy to think that way about the Bengals and how good they did that year, making the Super Bowl. And then also the Lions. You know, we've talked the Lions up for several years. The Houston Texans last year. You know, when we came out and over and over and over, show after show after show, said that Nick Caserio was one of the best GMs in football, and he's turning this team around, and they're going to be that surprise team in 2024, and damn skippy they were. And so people can say the same thing about Washington. Oh, no, they're not going to Washington. How's Washington have weapons? Just like Houston. You know, now look at Houston. Everybody loves them. Where are those people now? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Matto dropping his $50 hauler. Says MHJ breaks rookie receiving record $50 hauler.
$50. Give me $50 hauler.
Receiving yards or receiving
$50. Oh, yeah.
MHJ breaks receiving. Is it rookie? Rookie receiving?
Yep. Rookie wide receiver receiving record.
Rookie wide receiver yardage record?
I'm guessing he meant that. He'll clarify it.
Yeah, I don't think he'll break Randy Moss's 23.
What's the rookie?
Rookie.
Is that the rookie touchdown record?
Rookie.
Yeah, Randy Moss holds the touchdown lead at 23 as a rookie.
No, 17.
No, he had 17 as a rookie.
17, bro.
He had 23 with the Patriots.
Yeah, you're thinking wrong. Here, I'll put it on screen.
No,
here. It's 17. What? 17, but still 17 is freaking unbelievable. Yeah, right here. Randy Moss 17, Jamar Chase 13, JJ 13, Bob Hayes 13. Who else was next? It was
he could definitely crush the 13, I think.
Yeah. But 17, I mean, he could have 17. I don't think that's nuts.
What did Puka? What did Puka set for a rookie record last year?
The receiving yards?
Did he set one?
Yeah.
Was it yards?
Rookie receiving yards record. Let me put that up. Puka Nakua's got 1486. Bill Groman has 1473. Jamar Chase has 1455. JJ's got 1400. Damn, Jamar Chase is like all over the place. And, you know, sometimes you forget how good Jamar Chase is. And sometimes you forget, like, he could be easily the number one wide receiver in Dynasty this time next year, like, you know, coming out of the 2024 season with Joe Burrow healthy. But here's Puka Nacua, 1486. Jamar Chase, 1455. JJ, 1400. Receptions. Let's see reception totals.
Is that Puka too?
Receptions record. Yeah, Puka Nacua has
Might have
that
been
one.
Puka.
Yeah, he has that one too.
Yeah.
It's Puka, then Waddle. Wow, Waddle. Waddle with 104. Bolden, Anquan Bolden, 2003 with 101. Michael Thomas in 2016. Barkley. Holy crap. I forgot about that. Barkley, 91. He's a running back. That's another reminder how good Barkley is.
Yeah.
90. He's in there with the receivers in the top 10. That's unreal.
I think we finally lost Ty Lee. What a shame.
Wow, what did he do?
He just got timed out, but he's talking crap.
You should also
Blackbeard
post
timed
your...
him out, which is funny. He said he'd take his $50 somewhere else about some other thing.
Okay.
Then,
Well, Ty, we appreciate you. Kind of.
let us know when you get the Joe Burrow tape.
That's fine. Okay, Rock Out. Check the DMs. Rock Out must have dropped some sort of masterpiece in the DMs. Let's see.
Go hit up Fantasy Football Show by Smitty.
Oh, hi.
This goes out to the universe.
Rock out.
Go
Production.
hit up Fantasy Football Show by Smitty. He goes live all the time. He'll get you right. He'll give you the picks. He'll give you the tips. He'll help you dominate. So come on for the ride. Join the community. Fantasy Football Show. Let's go.
Straight from Rock Out's mouth.
Rock out.
Take it. Whoops. All right.
On the mic.
Yeah. What else? What else we got? Big Ben was drinking and dunking. What's that, Mr. T? Okay. If Tyreek gets injured, the Dolphins team falls apart. I definitely see that happening. Sure. I hope Tua Tagovailoa doesn't get hurt though, because then I don't want Achane to like fall apart. We'll see. I just don't know why Justin Fields wasn't a priority for Miami Mike McDaniel. I just don't understand it. If I was in that room, I would like get fired talking about it so much. They'd be like, "Leave it alone, Smitty. Shut up." And if I was in like that decision-making circle in Miami, like a scouting team or something, I'd be like, "You guys have any more thoughts about Justin Fields for a 4th rounder?" Smitty, shut up. Say it again and you're gone. And I'd just be sitting there like the next day going, "Anybody seen Fields?" Like, I don't get it. I don't get how you don't as the Cardinals. And my own Cardinals had an amazing draft. But like I can't give them even a B in the offseason. I think everybody except for Pittsburgh gets in the Eagles because they're so phenomenal all offseason. But I think everybody else can't get an A from me. I think I'm gonna be stubborn and give everybody a sub A because they didn't go after Fields. Such a solution. Yeah, and in a way, like if we're gonna say this, okay, if someone says, "Hey, Smitty, reverse engineer and re-architect the Atlanta Falcons situation," and is there a way that you would undo what they did and do it better? I would trade a 4th rounder for Fields, and I would draft Penix Jr. Like, that is the better way, and then you draft your edge rusher, you do whatever. Or Dunze. You draft a Dunze, you take him from the Bears, you get Fields for a 4th rounder, unconditional, so you steal that away, right? And then you draft Penix Jr. Or, I'm sorry, you're drafting a Dunze. You draft Penix Jr. I'm sorry, you don't get a Dunze. You draft Penix Jr. I'm confusing myself. I'm getting so excited. You draft Penix Jr. and you trade for Fields. And you have that, and then you don't have to spend $100 million, is what I was trying to say. Like that would be the only way I could rework the double quarterback move without spending the $100 million. But you would have to use the pick on Penix Jr. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm not trying to say they made a mistake. I'm just saying, could I have done it better? Sure, but I still love it. And we wouldn't have had Fields to Pickens later on in the year, so there's pros and cons. But, that would be pretty nice to have Cousins back in Minnesota, Fields and Penix Jr. in Atlanta, and then whatever. But, I don't know. Cousins will be great, so it'll be good. It'll be good for as long as it lasts, whether it's a half a year, 4 games, 24 games, whatever. Jimmy celebrates his 17-month membership. How many punts and kicks will Fields return this year? I don't know, Jimmy. There's just some rumblings about that. I don't know that there's going to be anything. It's tough.
I kind of hope none.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I kind of hope that he's the quarterback. But
I don't want him to be. I mean, they can use him, like you said, in a
Wildcat,
Taysom Hill role maybe. But
yeah,
I don't want him to get too gimmicky. Move away from.
Put him in as Wildcat.
Did you see Maddow said rookie touchdowns?
Oh, rookie touchdowns, 17. Okay, I like the way you think, Maddow.
Switched it up.
That's let me go touch it up. Yeah, that's awesome, bro. I like that. Okay, so rookie touchdowns, so 17.
That'd be a fun one.
Yeah, this will be a good one. Maddow, MHJ breaks rookie wide receiver TD record. TD record 17. We got some good ones on here. I almost can't even read them all.
I would love that prediction to come through because I have so many MHJ and Kyler stacks in best ball already.
Yeah. You know, I'm hoping somebody throws a Kyler prediction down. I think Kyler Murray could be a top 5 quarterback this year. I don't know who I bump out. I'm just saying, like, how is he not? Thank you, Matto. Thank you, Lancaster. Appreciate you. Thank you, Rockout. Rockout's
yeah,
on the
the
line.
Zay Jones signing too in Arizona with Zay Jones coming there. That helps Kyler even more.
I like that move.
Yeah, Zay Jones was fantastic signing. That was a great signing. He's definitely an amazing receiver to throw into the group. You know, had the Cardinals got Fields, I would have said A+ off season with Zay Jones and that, and then A+ draft. Just turned the franchise around in an off season. It's unbelievable. But I hate Ritter. I hate that Ritter's our backup. I hate it. Not gonna lie, that's the one part that really irks me.
And the Cardinals defense still isn't that good, so you can expect them to be in a lot of shootouts this year.
Yeah. Rock out, you're live.
Yeah, I think JD5 could finish 6 and 7 going into 2025.
Yeah, I think so easily. I could see him going in the top 3, 4, 5 of all quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I could see. There's no reason JD5 in my mind isn't thought of as Lamar or better. Better than Lamar is right now next year. Like, I'm not saying he has that year in some total this year. I'm saying when we draft 1 year from today, he looks better to everybody than Lamar looks right now walking into 2024, which is what, quarterback like 5 or 4 or 5, depending on who it is. Like, you know, that's about where you're viewing Lamar, 4,
like
5, 6. Yeah, 5, 6, 7. I mean, so JD5 I think will look more attractive to draft in 2025 drafts than Lamar looks now. Not to mention then, like next year in 2025, he'll look better than Lamar. From a fantasy perspective, I just think he's going to be unreal from the jump, surrounded by talent. Imagine if Eckler's got even a fraction of his old self left. You know what that's going to do. What rock out?
Yeah. And where are you taking Bijan Robinson? Because I had a lot of shares of Jefferson. I decided to go Bijan at 5 instead of Jefferson in the draft.
I mean, I think anytime, like on Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty, Underdog will give you a 50% match on your first deposit up to $250 now. So you drop 100, they give you 50. You drop 200, they give you 100. You drop 500, they give you 250. So hit the link. I'm going to drop it in the live chat. But on Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty, link has been dropped in the live chat. What was the question?
Were you taking Bijan? Because I had a bunch of shares of Jefferson, so I decided to go Robinson this time over Jefferson this time.
So here's round 1, here's round 2, just to give an idea. So I think on Underdog, if you get the 1.1, you just take CMC because you're gonna want enough. You're gonna want like a 10% or 7 to 10%. Share of CMC. You don't want to be oversaturated. He's 28 years old, but you certainly, as I say, it's almost as risky to doubt him than to believe in him. He's 28 years old. But whenever you get the 1, just use that as your opportunity to get those shares because you're not going to get them at 2 or 3 very often. So then anywhere from like the 1.2 to the 1.6, I'm fine going Bijan there. I think you want to try and take him at the 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, and 1.6 is more so than the 1.2 because again, and even the 1.3, like you could even say that this slot right here, and you want to get some of Bijan's slot built from the 3rd and 4th and 2nd picks because they'll build different teams. So the whole part of having different variants is to account for different things that could go wrong or bad. So I'm not saying not to do some shares of Bijan in 2 and 3. But for the most part, this is where I'm probably a lot of the times going wide receiver in this 2 and 3 slot and getting my share of that out of the way. And then in this like 1.4 to 1.9, I'm taking Hall, Bijan, Gibbs, those guys, a whole boatload of them. Jamar Chase, not just running backs, but, again, I try and get variants that have those guys a little bit higher. Like I want Chase from the 3 pick because it builds a different team. But for the most part, I am hammering out a bunch of Bijan drafts from the 2 to 6, mostly the 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I took him at 5, and I passed on Jefferson just because I already had a lot of Jefferson already.
Yeah, I hear you. Ray G says in his membership, Dicker the kicker will kick a lot of field goals this year, says Ray G. Yeah, so many people get so mad at me in my Harbaugh stuff. God, I can't tell you how many people, like in emails and DMs, and especially DMs, like, you're going to look like a fool when Harbaugh wins games. And I'm like, hey, Bob, when did I say he's for sure losing games? Well, you said that his offense is very boring. I'm like, did I say he's a lock to bust? Bob, you're wasting my time. See ya. Like, I just, sometimes I don't answer him, but it's like, people don't, like, understand. I make it very clear. Like, is there a chance I'm starting to get more concerned about the actual winning part. I'm not going to lie, but I think it's certainly possible he can win with this strategy and formula of boring. What's your strategy? What's his book? He opens it up, boring. It just says boring. We're a boring team. They are a boring team. Anybody that says that the Chargers are not a boring team, you are a Charger fan, and I appreciate that about you. But, like, be honest with yourself. Don't try and act like the Chargers are a fantastic, fun-looking team that you'd love, just racing to get season tickets to see Joe Alt. I'm just racing to get tickets to watch Joe Alt in the trenches. I just can't wait to watch it. It's going to be a marvel. Chark, bring him in. Do it live. Did they ever bring in what's his face? Scantling? Did they ever? I didn't even check. I'm embarrassed. I haven't even checked.
No, I don't know.
I don't think that'd be so funny if they signed him. And,
sure.
It didn't even make the news.
Pick up anybody they want.
Yeah, they signed him. It didn't even make the news. It was bigger news that they re-signed their longtime hot dog vendor. They re-upped with Johnny Hot Dogs for the season. That was bigger news than bringing in MVS as their 5th or 4th wide receiver. But what a boring team. Just absolute boring.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't get today.
The thing with them taking Alt, like Ethan said, the lineman pick was a no-brainer. I would agree with that if Alt was going to play left tackle. But they're bringing him in to play right tackle. They already have a good left tackle.
Yeah.
You can build a line through,
but
a little bit later in the draft and coaching guys up. And they needed an elite wide receiver, but that's obviously not what Harbaugh wants to
Here's
do.
the thing. Like, this is where everyone that says Joe, I mean, I know Joe Alt's good, but everybody that says that this was a mistake, or this wasn't a mistake, look at this guy, Troy Fatuanu, over in Pittsburgh. This guy could be better, could be better than Joe Alt. Not saying he is, not saying I'm prospecting him that way. He could be. And, you look at teams that, like in the case of Minnesota, what were their picks? The Minnesota Vikings had, they moved up to 17, but what was it, 20? Was it 23? 23 and 11?
11 and 23.
Yeah, 11 and 23. So a realistic player that was available. Guyton. I mean, I would say, like, you move up, and even if you moved, let's see here, even if you moved down to some degree, like Joe Alt moved down, and you got 11 and 23. You could have taken you could have taken any of these guys. The guy that actually got taken at 11 out of Penn State to the Jets. You could have just taken him at 11.
Yeah.
And then at 23, what wide receiver is there? Oh, it's Brian Thomas Jr. So you're trying to tell me, you Harbaugh loving Charger fan that's just so bent out of shape of my Harbaugh take, and your team's boring. It is what it is. You're telling me that taking either one of those offensive tackles or whoever fits best, and Travis is right. You took a guy who doesn't even quite fit your scheme or your team need on the line. You're telling me that offensive lineman, whichever one you choose from that territory on, and Brian Thomas Jr. wasn't better for this football team? You don't think that you could have coached that lineman up just a little bit? You don't think that would have been a little bit better for this team? Get out of here. I mean, come on. I like Joel. I like Joel, but this was not. There were arguments to be made. There's no arguments to be made over getting a Brian Thomas Jr. Not to mention you could have had McConkey and Brian Thomas Jr. and the offensive lineman of choice, whether it's Fashanu or Fatanu, I think is how you say his name. But both these guys are very, very good offensive linemen. Very good. You could have had either one of these guys at 11, reached on Fatanu at 11. And then you could have brought in Brian Thomas Jr. at 23 and still got McConkey if you want. Can you imagine how good this team would look? It'd be night and day. If you brought in Barkley or Henry, or even retained Eckler, but you brought in Barkley, Henry, or Jacobs, and you made that trade. You brought in a lineman, either one of those linemen, with Brian Thomas Jr. and McConkey. This would be not a playoff contender, a multiple win playoff team. I'm not saying that Harbaugh can't do it without that, but I'm guaranteeing you that this team's winning 11 games with Harbaugh and that team. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. People can stop arguing. Joe Alt versus that, no way. I'm sorry. I love Joe Alt. I love him.
And that's the thing, is even if it works, you could say, great, it worked. But if one of those other linemen worked, that could have worked just as good in the future, But I don't always buy into it worked, so it was the right move.
Smitty,
not always.
Yeah, Smitty just took 85 at the 2.1 in Dynasty rookie. So did I. I took him at 2.2. So I have Dak, Goff, and Tua on my roster. Can only start one QB. What type of deal should I look to try and get done? I don't know that you're going to get rid of Dak, Goff, or Tua. They're not very attractive sells right now, bro. But, I mean, it's a one QB, too. It's going to be very hard-pressed to trade Dak Prescott. But I'm not trading JD5. I like him most for your future. But, I mean, I guess you go to the QB weak teams and you go there, bro. I can't really tell you. I don't know. You'd have to look at the QB weak teams, find out what they need, and see if you can get some sort of draft pick or, like getting a Jonathan Brooks or Benson from a second-round position would be worth that move. You know what I mean? Give me Benson or Brooks, and I give up a second-rounder, so you're, like, moving up and then giving Dak. You give Dak for free. Give Dak for free to move your second up even to the top of round 1 or round 2 or the bottom of round 1 to get Benson or Brooks, because they will fall sometimes to 10, 11, 12. So just getting that alone would be worth getting rid of Dak for me to get that RB and moving that second up. Let me go around the phone line here and because I'm going to end it here. Interrupting Ian just called in. You're live. What's up? As quick as you can, pal.
Hey, bud. I just want to say, Joe Alt is a good pick. I understand the Chargers are going to be a slow fix in this next year, and probably I'm not really in a Chargers fan. I'm not really expecting much.
Sounds exciting
them this year, but I want them to be a physical team.
Sounds exciting.
But the positive thing with this and is that a second-round draft pick.
I wish I could be a part of this.
I think you know who it is. I think there's going to be a lot of positive there. I also think this team's going to be a little bit more physical than people imagine. I think the running game is just a farce this year. With J.K. Dobbins, it's a farce.
You're selling me, bro. Where do I get my season tickets?
Yeah.
How do I get all these Charger games on the TV here?
Dude,
what are we doing here?
I'm a Charger I'm a Chargers fan.
I know.
You know,
I can tell.
And I'm not sold.
Okay.
You know?
Well,
and, you know, I know Gus. You know,
but
is
again,
good,
bro,
but he's not going to be there long.
Bro, let me just stop. Let me just stop you there real quickly and just say again, the problem I have with Charger fans, bro, is they don't listen to what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you're doing that necessarily. I'm just trying to like stop you where you're going, because I'm not saying Joe Alt isn't great. He's generational potentially, but so was Penei Sewell, and he was not the right pick just because, you know, they needed offensive linemen. They needed to coach that up, figure that out. Jamar Chase was way more generational and impacting. Look at the Bengals and how they made it to the Super Bowl. And people could say, oh, but they didn't make it, or Joe Burrow's gotten hurt. See, but that's not something that you can't say that they would have gotten as far as they've gotten.
I think you're like missing the point on like where Jim Harbaugh goes as a coaching perspective.
No, I'm not.
And how he turns around teams.
I know, but I'm not missing the point, because what I'm saying is
he doesn't do it in like 1 year.
I know, but bro, what I'm trying to say, the point that Charger fans don't hear me on is that what I just described here. Trade that 5 down for like the 11 and 23, which would have been doable during the draft, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Like this group of offensive linemen were fantastic, bro.
And with what picks though? What are you saying with what picks?
Trade 5 for 11 and 23. Trade 5
for who?
To grab either one of these offensive linemen, Fashanu or we talked about the Steelers, Troy Fatuanu.
Or Mims, the guy the Bengals.
Yeah, Mims was a good one too. I mean, you talk about amazing offensive line. These are really good. These guys are capable of being as good as anyone in the class. And then on top of that, so with 23, you get Brian Thomas Jr. You could still take McConkey, bro. But my problem isn't with Joe Alt.
I mean, where is the problem? I guess. Yeah.
Where's the problem? I mean, that's why I don't understand how I'm not as clear as can be on this. I mean, I appreciate you, bro. I'm not mad at you, but like, I can't be more clear about this. I talk about it every day. Like, why not bring in Barkley? Why not bring in Jacobs? Why not bring in Henry? Because that's not how Harbaugh. You start to sound like Niner fans. That's just not the Niner way. Like, you're asking me a question. Where did you mess up? You messed up by you have Justin Herbert.
Dude,
hold on.
You're going Niner way. He just came from Michigan. I mean, like, you're going hard now.
Bro,
I mean, like,
you have Harbaugh.
That was like 10 years ago.
You have Harbaugh.
Like, he has like a recipe for success, and you can't deny that.
Yeah, but you also can't say that what he did in the past in the NFL is absolutely going to translate on over, just because he has been in the NFL before. He's had major success in college, and now he's coming over back to the NFL, and it's been a while, bro. It's not something that's just going to absolutely be exactly the same. And not to mention, again, you're not hearing me. When did I ever say the Chargers couldn't win games? Did you hear me ever say that? Because you're here arguing a point I don't think you realize you're arguing, that I'm not standing on. I'm not standing on that this will fail or he will bust in the NFL. I've merely said, and I've made it abundantly clear, but Charger fans don't hear me. They take such great offense to what I'm saying, they start making up in their head what I'm saying. And I can't be more clear about it. When did I say that Harbaugh wouldn't succeed, that he's for sure going to fail? I said it's boring, bro. I said it's boring. And I said that it's fantasy. It's not fantasy friendly. But does that mean he won't?
That's not really like my argument at all.
Okay, what's your argument though? Because
whether it's boring or not.
Okay, but you're basically saying you want to know my point, and my point is that it's not going to be fantasy friendly. I'm starting to have more questions about how quickly he'll be able to do this and deploy this, recipe you're talking about. But I'm also here to say that the recipe's better by taking another offensive lineman in a very good class, grabbing Brian Thomas Jr., and then you can use that other pick on whatever you want. Or you want to take McConkey as well? Sure. Bring in a Josh Jacobs. Bring in a Barkley.
I mean, like, to be honest, I love Brian Thomas Jr., like, where he's at. To be honest, I got some stock in him. But
Why not bring in a running back, bro? How is Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins getting you closer to winning games?
Dude, I'm not saying that at all.
I know.
Yeah. Like,
So what are we saying then? 'Cause
and
I'm not sure what we're talking about here.
I forgot where we're arguing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what we're arguing about. I think a lot of times people just think I'm saying something horrible. It's boring. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe win games boring in a boring fashion.
I think what I was trying to say is it's gonna be like a turnaround, and a lot of people don't think it's. I know it seems boring, but there's gonna be something that comes out of this.
I never
argued
argued
that. And I think
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably gonna be like Rice or Conky or something.
I like
else,
McConkey though. I do like him.
Yeah.
I do like him. I just think that why not do this with Barkley, Jacobs, or Henry? Why not do this with keeping Keenan Allen and letting the wheels fall off and let him help this offense get on track? Why not do this with drafting like the way that I suggested? I mean, how is that not better? How is that not better for the recipe? That's all I'm trying to say. How is Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins better for this recipe? That's all I'm trying to tell you. I'm not saying that Harbaugh won't still do well with it.
I think it's a new guard. So the new guard came in, and this is how they're doing it. So I can't argue one way or another. I think it's the new guard coming in, and that's the Jim Harbaugh. So.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate your call, and I don't think we're that far off. I just think that a lot of people do think that I'm a hater on Harbaugh. I'm not a hater on Harbaugh. I just don't love his offense. I don't think it'll do well fantasy-wise for anybody, and it really is frustrating that Herbert is, as I always put it, a 200-mile-an-hour race car asked to race in a 200-mile-an-hour race against other 200-mile-an-hour race cars. And Harbaugh's only going to let him drive 125 miles an hour. And he's expected to win the race. It's just such a boring way to play. Harbaugh's going to be he's going to be bored. I'm sorry, Harbaugh.
Dude,
Herbert.
I 100% agree. Like, I 100% agree. Like, Herbert is going to be, to be honest, like this season, super slow. Maybe like mid-season, he'll have some peak. And like later in the season, if they're playoff worthy, they'll peak again. That's about it.
Again, some of the arguments are always like, and I think I see maybe one or two of them in the chat, like it can be done with blah, blah, blah. Look at his brother. He did it with the less roster. Like, that's so irrelevant. Like, what I'm trying to say over and over is that why not do it the way that I'm describing? If Harbaugh is so good, don't you think, and I'm not saying he's not, don't you think handing him Barkley, keeping Keenan Allen, drafting McConkey and BTJ.
Dude, I get your argument, but that's not how he operates.
I get that. That's what I say. That's exactly what I'm saying. He doesn't operate the way I would operate, and everyone's going to go, oh, you know more than him. I'm not necessarily saying that at all. I'm just saying I kind of feel like my plan looks better.
You're always saying, like, the old running backs. He's bringing in the new.
Oh yeah, who's that? I mean, I like the.
He's specking all the young players, all those young guys.
Yeah, guys.
Getting undrafted.
I like.
Who knows?
I like Vidal. I like Vidal a lot. I think Vidal starts games, but he's definitely a long shot too. At the same time, but Vidal's going to get starts by default because you got the all ACL and Achilles running back crew. I just don't get it.
Yeah,
running backs are so cheap too.
It's gonna be like 1, 2, and 3 Vidal.
Well, I think it's also going to be a 3-headed running back monster, at least a 2-headed. That's the other problem, though. Is even if Vidal gets in there, I don't think it'll just be him. I do believe he'll have 2-3 running backs. This is a guy that does not value one player over another. And you can admire that about him, and I admire that about you admiring about him. There's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't change the fact of what I'm saying, which is that it's boring as hell, and it's very likely not fantasy friendly, and Herbert is going to be driving on a half a tank of gas all year. That's the only way I can explain it. And I know a Charger fan is going to continue to hear it differently. You're going to see this is not how football works, Smitty. Maybe fantasy. It's what I'm saying. I've been saying.
It's okay, like, well, because I can hold myself back. I can watch football and then I can draft fantasy. So, like, I purposely, like, only am very spectacle about drafting my own team. So, which apparently is pretty good.
But you know what the only answer I get from a Charger fan though, especially when they call in, and I give you props for calling in, but when they call in and I say, why can't you do this with Barkley? Why can't you do this by keeping Keenan Allen? You got rid of him for nothing, bro. For nothing. Why can't you do this with?
They're so sold on the Charger way, dude. Like,
I know.
I've lived in. I've lived in LA. Like, I've lived in California my whole life. Like, I know how the Spanos made their money. I know how. I know what they think, and I know that their thinking now is different. I know that money is flowing a little bit different in their family. So, I get it now.
Confused.
So,
I'm confused. I get you, but I still don't know what we're talking about. But hey, I appreciate you interrupting Ian for calling in. I appreciate you, bro. And I wish your Chargers well. I do. And I hope that McConkey is getting a lot of targets, bro.
Dude, I think he's going to do well. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Later, bro.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Bob from Cali, you got 30 seconds because I got to get out of here. Sorry.
I wanted your thoughts on what this means with JJ, and then who's the running back in Dallas? Is it Freeman, Voisman, or I forget the third dude's name, but you have Houston and then the Zeke. So
yeah,
JJ,
Dowdle.
The RB situation in Dallas.
Yeah, Dowdle's the number 2. Zeke's the number 1. What was the other question?
What are your thoughts on JJ after hearing that? The QB they took in the first round is not really
JJ
going to be starting. Correct.
JJM or JJ?
McCarthy.
Okay, McCarthy. I already kind of covered that, so definitely go rewatch for more on it. But I'd just say that, I never loved JJ McCarthy. I don't hate him. I'm not hating on him. I'm not predicting him to be a bust. I just
No. You're confusing me. What are Justin Jefferson's thoughts now? Does he want to stay there? Does he want out?
Oh.
Is he going to leave? Now that the QB they took and drafted up, traded up to give, probably isn't day one ready.
Yeah. Okay. So my projection for what? Because we don't know. My projection for Justin Jefferson. That's why I call him McCarthy and Justin Jefferson. I don't like to call JJM. It's too confusing. He doesn't deserve to be in that yet. So I usually just say McCarthy because it gets confusing. But JJ, I believe, is probably kind of unaware of what McCarthy's going to be. I don't think he would not sign a deal in anticipation that McCarthy's going to be bad. But, if the deal's not right, he's certainly not going to bend going, man, I want to just be here. He's going to be like, but the idea of trading him is gone. That's pre-NFL draft talk. The Vikings, you never ever know. Anything can happen, but the odds of trading JJ after the draft are significantly worse than trading him before the draft or during the draft, and they were already very, very low. So his only move is to sign his deal, right? If they are very divided, if JJ's look, I don't even love this quarterback situation, I might be signing my death sentence here, so I want to get paid freaking bank. And if they can't come to terms, then we might start hearing something weird brewing. Because as much as people want to say they're not trading JJ, it's not that easy. If a player doesn't want to be somewhere and they're not signing a reasonable offer, and you know they're not going to, you eventually will lose that player in the capital you have and all that, and the trade opportunity, and eventually, teams do make moves to better themselves. And you do wonder if the team thinks it's weird because you got Aaron Jones there as an RB, so old dog. You've got the rest of the team's young. You got JJM who's not ready yet. Like, it's a weird team. It's a very awkward group of people that you've collected together to say what is our identity this year? Are we a win now team? Are we maybe we can win now? We got Aaron Jones in case we can. He helps develop because he's a very savvy veteran that can catch footballs and pass protect. So it's more of a developmental player we brought in for McCarthy, which could be an argument. I mean, for sure. But it's a weird team. It's a weird makeup. It's mixed. It's confused. It's a confused roster. It doesn't make any sense.
Do you think the Bengals could send a second, a third, and Henderson over for JJ?
A second and a third?
And Henderson.
No. You have to send multiple first rounders, bro. At least a first rounder and a whole bunch of there's no way you're trading for JJ using a second and a third, bro. There's no way. Zero chance. I mean, you'd have to send that over just to have a conversation with him. Take him to lunch. He would cost a boatload, my guy. He would cost a boatload. You could say the Bengals send Higgins over and a couple first rounders, or I think it would take more than one, to be honest with you. So one first rounder and Higgins. I mean, Higgins is going to cost, so it's not like he's the most valuable player to trade too, because there's a lot that goes into that. But bro, you think about it. A.J. Brown and Hollywood Brown both went for first rounders on draft day. You get more of a haul on draft day though. But you're talking about A.J. Brown getting a first rounder. I don't care if you're throwing in a player. JJ gets you two first rounders. Now, if I'm the Bengals, do I do that? Yeah, I do that. I throw Higgins, 2 first rounders, get it done. Bring JJ in. Problem is the Bengals, I don't know. They got to pay Jamar Chase. I think that they would move that plan until next year, and they would figure out how to do this with JJ. And you could do a lot of upfront money, and these contracts are a lot easier to do than people think. But I mean, there's a world where this is something we talk about, and everyone's like, "This is a stupid conversation," and we're kicking it around because somebody's talking about it, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that we have this conversation later on, because it all comes down to JJ and the gap between the team and JJ. Because if they're so far apart, there's no hope in sight. If he wants $120 million guaranteed and $38 million per year, on some massive deal, and the Vikings are like, look, we're confused. We've got Aaron Jones, we got JJM, we've got Hawkinson injured, we got Addison who's young. We don't know where we're at right now. I don't know how far away we are. I'd hate to sign this big contract. Then at the end of it, when we need to re-up with JJ, we're ready. So what if we reset the clock with JJ with other players? They could be in that state of mind if JJ's like, give me this. And they're like, we're not even close to that. That's what happened with Tyreek Hill. He got so out of pocket with his desire because he realized that the income tax was different. And he was making so much more on the Miami deal. And on top of that, he upped the desired number once Adams signed his contract. And he was about to put a pen to paper. And someone said, hey, look what Adams has got. And you need to worry about the income tax because you make a whole lot more. And so he said, oh, damn. And he pulled back. And then KC said, we're out. We can't compete with this anymore. We're just going to trade him. So as much as people want to say, like, JJ can't get traded, it's all dependent on the gap, just like Debo. Debo getting traded, or I'm sorry, Ayuk getting traded was all about whether a team came in and made an offer they can't refuse. And everyone said I was a clown for even suggesting that Ayuk would be considered to be traded. He was very much, they tried to trade him. That was very much in the open. They tried to trade Debo and Ayuk on draft day, and they couldn't trade either one of them. But the reason Ayuk wasn't tradable was because of partly what the Eagles did. They're playing 10D chess with everybody. And the moment they announced that $84 million guaranteed contract, 12 minutes before the draft began, Ayuk was untouchable in a trade because his price went up. The Niners were sitting on their hands all offseason long like they always do, and they watched Ayuk get priced out of the trade market. And it was brilliant by the Eagles. They absolutely... The Niners offseason lives... The Eagles live rent-free in their head. They're so good at the offseason in taking care of their players. The fact that they you could say even overpaid and locked down both wide receivers to keep them happy. Brought in Barkley, and then announced this 12 minutes before the draft started. This is textbook execution. And now the Niners were scrambling. I do like Ricky Pearsall, but he's a second-round player that they grabbed early in panic mode. Couldn't trade with the Buffalo Bills. Bills kept moving back, I think, truly to try and buy time to have this conversation, exploratory trade talks. And the Niners thought they were probably going to get a deal done, so they took Pearsall. And I think that's where the DeJean rumor came, because they were going to go DeJean, but switch it to Pearsall and act like, there was a leak, and that's why that happened. They sent that out there to prove that there's a leak. Yeah, right. I think there's a leak, and the leak proved that they were going to go DeJean, and they switched it in panic mode to Pearsall, which I like. I like Pearsall, but he wasn't a first round grade. He was a second round grade. So it was just a misstep. But anyway, we'll see, bro. JJ, it's a good question. I think that he would sign the right deal, but his price might have went up now that he knows he's stuck somewhere that might hamper his career. Who knows? And maybe this is hard. I'm being hard on JJM. Maybe JJM ends up being a star. I'm not ruling that out. I don't feel it yet. Just being honest.
Hey, and I know the other caller was talking about the Chargers, and I know your time's kind of short, but do you think there's any possibility that Harbaugh stretches the field and airs it out, just even a little bit? Another dude in the comments was talking about how he had Andrew Luck at Stanford, and I know people don't really talk about him that much, but, you have Bruce Arians or Arian Foster's or whatever the previous head coach of the Bucs was. He's been great everywhere he went, and he's on the record saying that but Manning and Brady were two of the best he's ever seen. But there was one guy who he thought was better than both of them. His name was Andrew Luck. Do you think that there's a possibility with Herbert, putting up the numbers he did his rookie year, where he could say, okay, we got a guy, we're going to stretch it out just a little bit. I know you're not too high on him. Well, not him, but Harbaugh's kind of.
I love Herbert.
Yeah.
So
do you think he could stretch it out? Do you think he's going to stretch out the field? Any fantasy value there?
I guess I would ask you this: do you have the personnel to do that?
I'm looking at the team, and they kind of do. They had some injuries on the. They had injuries everywhere, and they had an awful coach, just an awful.
But who are your wide receivers? You got Quentin Johnson. He's proven nothing. He's a body catcher for a living.
He's terrible. He's a non-factor.
Okay, so you got McConkey. McConkey's a rookie. I like him, but he's a rookie. How trusted will he be? Well, Harbaugh's very much very much a. You got to earn it. No one man's better than the rest. So there is that whole rotational aspect, especially as a rookie. You got DJ Chark. I don't think you've got the wide receiver room equipped enough to be a stretch the field, considered an air attack, offense. I don't think there's a shot for it. Had you kept Keenan Allen, how you brought in Brian Thomas Jr., you done what I suggested you do with the genius of Harbaugh. I'm not trying to say the guy doesn't have a genius mind, but instead of Alt, you go get another offensive tackle. You coach up a little bit. You bring in Brian Thomas. You get McConkey. You bring in Barkley. Bro, you have a multiple win team in the playoffs. You don't just make the playoffs. You win multiple games in the playoffs right away. I'm not trying to say I know more than Harbaugh. I'm not trying to be an idiot about this, but I think that if you let me control the draft and then you gave the team to Harbaugh, he would coach a better season. This is me telling you that he's a great coach. Sure. I'm not saying that. But, like, what's he doing? This is the most mundane group of players I've ever seen in my life. And you're bringing in J.K. and Gus together? This is just odd, bro. It's odd as hell. There's nothing here exciting except for Ladd McConkey and maybe Vidal if he gets in there. There's nothing exciting about this team at all. And I think Herbert's going to be crocheting in the backfield while he's, hut. He's just going to be taking up knitting and doing all kinds of. This is not going to be an air assault. There's not enough firepower for it. Could I be wrong? Sure, but if you had other weapons, I would think so. If you kept Keenan Allen, at least Keenan Allen and McConkey, at least I could be like, yeah, I don't know, but how in the hell is it going to happen?
If you're wrong and there's a guy that you think could be that guy, who is it?
McConkey, no doubt.
McConkey?
No doubt.
What about Rice and the dude out of Michigan?
I like Rice, but I don't know.
All right. Have a good night, Smitty.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you, bro. And your team can still win. Your team can still win, bro. I did not once say they're going to fail. I just said if I feel like if I could take control of the team on draft day and a little bit in free agency, bring in Barkley, keep Keenan Allen. You know, bro. You know what? Let me just say this: for those that are so set on Joe Alt, okay, like Ethan's, like, no, Smitty, you take Joe Alt. Okay, then let's go back in time. You bring in Barkley. You spend the measly amount of money it takes to bring in a running back. Don't give me excuses about money. You bring in Barkley. You draft Joe Alt. You still take McConkey. You keep Keenan Allen. You win multiple playoff games. Does anybody here disagree with me? You bring in Barkley. Let's draft Joe Alt then. Take Joe Alt. You keep Keenan Allen. You draft McConkey still. You have a team that can win multiple playoff games. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that if I took over the team during the offseason and draft and handed this team and said, sorry, I took over. I'm sorry. I know this is out of pocket, but here's your team. You're telling me that he doesn't have a better team to work with.
You're not wrong.
Okay. Hey, Bob, I appreciate you, bro.
Yep.
Later. God, I hate all my Charger fans get off the phone like they just got, like I just took away their Christmas. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just people are asking me questions. Let me go over to Chase real quick. Chase, as quick as you can. That was supposed to be 30 seconds. That was about 30 minutes. So you really do get 30 seconds. I'm being strict with this. Go.
I will call you back on Monday because I had a conversation with the 49er fan. He was my cousin, and it was hilarious. And I'll just let you go to bed. We'll talk about it Monday.
No. Now you got me intrigued. Let's be as quick as you can be. What is the conversation you had with your 49er buddy?
Okay, so we started talking about, he didn't know, so we started talking fantasy football. I like the Falcons, but I was like, man, the Eagles are going to be scary this year. He was like, the Eagles? So we started talking about Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy. He literally was saying that Brock Purdy's a better passer. He was saying that, so we started going, I was like, who'd you rather have, Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts? He was like, well, who'd you rather have, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts? And I was like, I'd rather have Jalen Hurts. He was like, well, I'd rather have Brock Purdy. And then we started going into IU.
Of course he would.
Devontae. And Devontae Smith, he said, I'd rather have IU. Then I was like, what about Adam Peters? He was like, Adam Peters is just, it doesn't matter. I was like, you guys lost your main star getter. And he was going in, and I was talking about Christian McCaffrey turning 28, whatever. He was like, it was just so crazy to hear, but I never really heard it. But you talk about the Niner goggles, and he truly had them. And I was like, come on, guys. You can't think Brock Purdy's better than Jalen Hurts.
Look, all diehard fans could have, goggles on. I feel like I didn't, though, with the Cardinals. Like, I was always very open about, like, Kyler and judging this and judging that. I feel like I brought a very, very objective take to my Cardinals. Like, and just because I'm overzealous about this year, people think I'm biased about it. And it's just, it happens. I happen to be lucky the stars are finally aligning from a not only fantasy perspective, but maybe an NFL perspective for the Cardinals, that just because I'm excited and you hear a bunch of Marvin Harrison and Trey Benson predictions and Kyler predictions and Trey McBride predictions. I mean, listen to that offense. Just because you hear me going crazy and I'm a Cardinal fan, you're making a mistake if you think I'm doing it with a biased lens, because it's just, I'm lucky that I finally have this opportunity. This is the 5th or 6th year on my channel, and I've never been able to do this, and I'm not forcing it. This is just the Cardinals' time. So, it is what it is. I know that people have goggles on, and the Niners have a window, bro. The Niners could win a Super Bowl this year, but their window is closing. Their window is not as wide open as it was last year. Last year was their year to do it. But yeah, they are completely blind, Niner fans, when you say, would you rather have Josh Allen or Purdy? And they're like, oh, Purdy. Like, they think Josh Allen's not good. They don't even know. They think Jalen Hurts is a lesser quarterback than Brock Purdy. And they don't even understand when you say that. They're like, no, he got figured out, didn't he? Like, they hear that from, Niner content creators that Hurts got figured out and the Eagles they're broken. They say that a lot. The Eagles are broken. Like, okay. They lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator in one shot, and they didn't do a good job replacing them. And Sirianni's not the right man for the job if he doesn't have the right people in place. He's on the hot seat if this doesn't work out this year. So I don't love Sirianni. I love this team. And I think what Sirianni's helped do, though, this offseason has 100% bought him another year for sure. You bring in Kellen Moore, you bring in Barkley, you sign both your wide receivers, you draft arguably the 2 best cornerbacks in the entire draft, and improve your defense and offense in multiple ways. Like, losing Kelsey was a blip on the radar, really, at the end of the day, with the additions that they brought in. So it's going to be unbelievable. Yeah, whenever I go into the quad box, Blackbeard, and with the Niner guys, the whole chat room and the 3 other guys, because it's all Niners. When I go in there, I'm all by myself, and I'm tough. I can take it, but they literally laugh at me. They laugh at me when we talk Jalen Hurts and Eagles over the Niners. They're just like, this guy is a clown. They're like, this guy doesn't know football. He's just a fantasy guy. Doesn't know anything about ball. And it's just like, there'll be like 1,000 people in the chat, and they literally only think one, color, red, and I get it. I understand, but it is what it is. It's fun. All right, bro. Appreciate you, Chase. Calling tomorrow, bro.
Yes, sir.
George from the Bay. Final thoughts, real quick.
Yeah, I'm not touching anything with the LA Chargers at all in fantasy this year. That's pretty much it. That's all I got to say.
All right, I agree with you. Later, bro. Mars Man Rock Out. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. So for the Chargers, Harbaugh's the actual GM of the whole scheme.
There hasn't been a lot of clarification on that, to be honest. I assume he's got. I don't think he would have even remotely accepted this job if he didn't have 100% control of what they even sell in the concession stands, because he could have got everything he wanted and more by staying in college. So he gets whatever he wants, as far as I know. But so he's acting, kingmaker there, no doubt about it. But
but I would took Brian Thomas if they traded down and would have McCartney and
McCartney, you mean? McCartney. Phil McCartney?
Paul?
McConkey, you mean?
Yeah, McConkey.
Okay, McConkey and who?
It would have made more sense if Brian Thomas was on the outside.
Yeah.
And McConkey in the slot, more than taking the lineman and then doing what they did.
But I think even if I can't get through to the Joe Alt believers, then I surrender that argument just to get over it and just say, tell me I'm wrong. You bring in Barkley, you bring in Henry, or you bring in Jacobs, and you tell me you don't get one of those guys to come to play football in a hardball run attack. No, I don't think so. So you get one of those guys to come in to be your running back. You draft Joe Alt. I give up. Do what you want with Joe Alt. And you keep Keenan Allen and you draft McConkey. Keenan Allen, McConkey, Barkley, Joe Alt, Herbert, this group is 100 times better than what they have now. And it doesn't matter that he's been coaching and successful in college. I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't think I was arrogantly going to be able to predict this better than this person or say that this is better for this coach. Then who cares? Like, if you don't like my opinion on it, then that's fine. I'm not even mad at you. You don't have to go or anything like that. But if you think I'm here to just bow down to other people's opinions, I wouldn't have a show doing this. You know, clearly I'm an arrogant son of a bitch. And I think I know more than I probably do. I know, actually, I know that I think I know more than I probably do. I know that. I'm not. Yeah. I am wrong all the time. Okay? I'm an opinionated SOB. But, yes, I believe I could have done better than Harbaugh. Do I think he could coach better than me? Of course, I don't coach. But I'm sitting here watching him make a mess of this situation, which he may get himself out of. And that's what Charger fans don't hear me say over and over and over. Can he still win? Yeah. Is he going to bust? I'm not saying that. But if you tell me I didn't just build you a better team, you're out of your mind. All right. Hey, I'll see you later. Rock out. You're the man.
Appreciate it.
He's in the building. Rock out. Later, bro. Ron Navy, are you still asleep?
You're on mute, brah.
Do you think Ron will ever see this? I don't think he'll. I don't know. He's weird sometimes. No. Sometimes he'll go back and watch the whole show. I was going to say, maybe we flush him.
Well, flush him and then he'll call you out on it.
Yeah, let's flush Ron because he's asleep. He doesn't know.
Toilet take.
Flush it. Flush it. Flush it.
So, Ron, you got flushed. Tell us if you saw that. Call your boy loud, says Smitty the man. Before you jump, any chance of doing a custom slow draft on Underdog? Yeah, we could probably do that. We should have drafted tonight, but we got so off track. Let me create a private Underdog league. This will go 17 weeks. It'll be $3 an entry. It's not one of the big money leagues. It's a small private league. So $3 a pop means that you'll get like $20 for first place. But the cool part about doing this is I did like hundreds of them with you guys. Hundreds of them. And I'm not saying I beat everybody every time I did it. I'm not meaning that when I say this. But when I checked at the end of the year, when those went through, when those all got calculated, I got like just $300 or $400 just added to my account. Now, granted, I paid $3 per to get in when we do these small leagues, so I don't know what my in value was to get all in on it, but it was way under like $200 sum total of doing these $3 drafts, and I got this $400 or $500 credit deposit, for the winnings on those. So like these little $3 drafts, $20 a pop, they add up if you just start winning some of them. You win every you win every third or fourth one. It's like you're making a profit. So let me drop it. It'll be $3 an entry, $12 slow draft. Create a private draft link. Here we go. Let me copy that and paste it in the chat. It'll start when we fill up, and that may or may not be tonight. It depends on if everybody hits that link right now and joins the draft. There it is. And if it starts tonight, it'll be slow. The timer will be off, and then 8 hours plus off at night kind of thing. And so no big deal if it doesn't fill right now. It won't start like when you're sleeping. It'll start when you're sleeping, but it'll be off. So jump into that, Underdog Fantasy. And on Underdog, if you want to get in, you just click that link. That link will insert code Smitty for you when it downloads the app. And they're giving you a 50% match on your first deposit up to $250. So that means you do a $10 deposit, they'll give you $5. You do $100, they'll give you $50. You do $500, they'll give you $250. That's the max though. So if you do $600, you're still getting $250. You do a $1,000 deposit, they're still giving you $250. $250 is the cap in terms of giving you that 50% match. But Underdog Fantasy, code Smitty gets it done. The link in the description gets it done, and the link I just dropped to get in this league gets it done too. Just click the link. Travis, any final thoughts? Ron's asleep, so you're the last one.
Yeah, can you just psychology decoded? He's been trying to follow up with his super chat in the regular chat about his question. He just posted the follow up. If you want to, I told him I'd let you know.
Okay, sure. Psychology Decoded says, would you get rid of Dak or Tua for Corum, Leggett, Corley, or Parasol? I can trade for the 2.4, and those are the top options. Honestly, I would trade Tua in a millisecond for any one of Corum, Leggett, Corley, Parasol in a millisecond. My order would be, if you've got Kyron, Corum for sure. If you don't have Kyron, then I would say probably Parasol or Corley, one of those two. And would I do Dak?
I like Corley.
I would maybe hope to get more, just because he was a top 5 quarterback last year. Kind of sucks. You got to get rid of him.
Yeah, I think he said he has Goff too, and he's getting JD5 in the draft.
There's the link.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
I guess at the end of the day,
having Dak to back up JD5 is pretty good.
Yeah, I think I probably don't trade him. I probably try and get more. Like, if I could get 2 of these guys for Dak, I would. But trade 2 in a millisecond for either one. Yeah, no, I give up Goff. Is this a super? That's a 1 QB. I give up Goff and Tua for one of those guys, because you're set.
You still have Dak, yeah. The last thing I was going to ask was with the Chargers. I forget where I saw it. I've been trying to remember. I can't remember where. Somebody was talking about Quentin Johnson and saying that they need to use him like Debo, and then he could be something, because he was kind of used like that in college a little bit to a point.
Yeah. Thank you. Call your boy loud.
That's the way they see him. That's the way they see him being successful. Do you think there's anything to that?
No. You know why? You know why I say
freak. But.
You know why I say I don't even know if he's an athletic freak to me. The reason I would call that cap, that claim, is that when I scouted him, he felt like the softest wide receiver of like the top 5, even though he was the biggest. I don't think he commanded the space around him at all.
That's true.
Like Debo, you can't tackle him. You can't tackle Debo.
So he wouldn't be a yak guy.
Yeah, and Corley's same thing. When you scout Corley, you're like, holy crap, this guy is a yak machine. He's the next Debo Samuel if they put him in the right spot. Quentin Johnson was like a paper tiger. He reminded me of a guy that would just catch the ball and just like he get hit, and then he just kind of like slow up like a sloth and just kind of like go down, and you're just like, bro, you're huge. What are you doing? Like, how are you not like? I don't know. You know when someone's chasing you and you like get slow and you're like, oh, they're right behind you, especially when you're a kid. Like you just start freezing. You don't run fast. You let him catch you. I feel like that's the way he looks or plays, is like when the ball's in the air or someone's going after him, he just kind of like turns into a turtle. I don't know. I could be wrong. He could definitely like take a big step forward, but he did not. He was a body catcher prospect to me. I did not like him as a prospect. I think everybody was overvaluing him. I called him essentially a bust, and took a little heat for that. And I don't think I'm gonna get proven wrong, through Father Time. I don't think he's just gonna mature into this dominant.
I'm not a believer in him. Not a believer in him either, but people bring him up quite a bit. And so, do you think in college like that? It was only 1 year that he was successful, really, anyway. But was it just that the fact that college football players, he was just bigger and faster than a lot of them, he could get away with it?
But he wasn't. Like when you watch his film, and I haven't watched this film in a while, so maybe I'm a little bit.
I mean, compared to a lot of college players, he probably was 6'4". I'm just searching for where was it just the system he was in,
But what I'm trying to say is
put up a good year.
But what I'm trying to say is when I watched film on him, though, And again, I'm admitting that I haven't done it in a while, right? Because it's been a little while now.
You're right. He doesn't stand out.
I saw a player that didn't do what you're suggesting he did, dominate at the college level. I saw a player that did not dominate at the college level. I saw a player that everybody said dominated, and I saw a player that felt like he was getting tackled too quickly. He didn't feel like he. But best example of this was N'Keal Harry. And he was a great prospect though. But like when he got into the pros, he just he couldn't dominate that space around him at all. He couldn't stay healthy too. But he did come in with a lot of upside, whereas I think Quentin Johnson didn't. But I think what I saw happen there, I kind of felt like was going to happen with Quentin Johnson. He's a body catcher, and it's almost like he just kind of doesn't realize he's big or bigger. He doesn't realize he was the biggest wide receiver in the top 5-ish, at least, in his class, and he played the smallest. And he played the smallest in college on film. So I just that's why I hated him coming out of college. It was not on my radar at all. I thought he was a complete bust in the making. And so I don't agree that and it's okay if you disagree. I'm not saying you do or don't, Travis. I'm saying anybody watching.
I
didn't think he was.
I'm not a believer in him. I'm just curious as to why, people still believe in him and why you still see different places. Oh, he's still going to break out with this and that. I'm just kind of curious. I ask around what people think, and I respect your opinion, so I ask you every once in a while.
Yeah. Also, you look at, he's entering his what? First of all, he only had 1,000 yard season. It was barely, So he's
only 1 year.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, in college, yeah. But yeah, he's entering his second year, and he had 4.31 and 2. Wasn't awful. But I'm not saying he's not going to be an NFL receiver anymore or something like that. Like he's incapable of that. But I just mean that this is a receiver that some were saying he'll be the best receiver in his draft class, or he could be number 2, or could he be the number 1 for the Chargers? I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible because people mature really weird when they get in the National Football League, but there's no signs of it. I'll just say that. If they appear, I'll be the first one to be like, you know what? I'm wrong on this. This kid looks good. I've been wrong so many times. It's not, this can't be one of them. No doubt about it. I could be wrong on a lot. Yeah. There's a couple of hard stances I've taken this offseason. One on Caleb. I could be wrong on Caleb, but I'll be the first to admit if Caleb ends up defeating all of his red flags and obstacles and things I view as problematic, and he can still ball, I will come out and say I was 100% wrong on Caleb. But I don't.
Oh, me too.
I don't feel, and I don't want him to fail. I don't want anybody to fail. What skin is it off my back if he's great? Doomsday does great, and I don't want anybody to fail. I don't want a single person to fail. I don't. I think that anybody that wants, like Will Smith said, even though Will Smith is probably the worst example of this now, hate in your heart will consume you too. I don't have that. I know people think I do. I'm passionate about my fantasy football stances, but I don't wish ill will on anybody. The Niner way is frustrating, says Blackbeard.
Only Ron hoping Marvin Harrison fails because of his ADP.
Yeah. All we need to do is get Marvin Harrison Jr. on a couple of Ron's squads, and then he'll be back on the train. He's a stubborn man.
That was in the moment.
It was. I think he'd admit that he didn't mean it, but yeah, Ron. And he didn't say want him to fail. He said, I hope he gets hurt. Didn't he? Or did he say fail?
I can't remember.
I think he said, I hope Marvin Harrison Jr. gets hurt because of his ADP. You guys are drafting him too high. Get off my lawn. He's sleeping right now. Ron, you there?
That was an all-timer.
He's asleep on the phone line. He's in his lazy boy, just cranked back all the way. Decoded wants me to convince him why Pearsall is better. Corley is better than Pearsall and Leggett. I'm not going to convince you of that because Corley and Pearsall are very, very close for me, and Leggett's not far behind. if Ricky Pearsall, look, he, as painful as it is for me to say this about Shanahan, not the Niners. I'm not a Niner hater at all. This is a great wide receiver that I went on Raj's live stream and told those guys that you should be drafting Ricky Pearsall if you get rid of Brandon Ayuk or Debo. So they, I'm not saying anybody listened to me. I'm just saying like I was in there talking this kid up. So I love him. He is such a good, crafty, hardline route runner. His feet are unbelievably quick. His determination's unbelievable. His everything about this kid is unreal. The problem is he's not looking at a lot of targets right away. He needs an injury or a trade. That's why I say Debo. I mean, if Pearsall comes along really fast, don't be surprised if something happens. I'm not saying it's extremely likely, but it's certainly possible. So I love Pearsall. I think Pearsall and Corley both are great. I think the only difference between Corley and Pearsall is Pearsall. Let me be bold. Corley has zero shot at being the number one wide receiver on his team because Garrett Wilson's that guy. I love Corley, but he's kind of like Addison, Jordan Addison. Dare I say Ricky Pearsall could be the best wide receiver on the Niners roster 2 or 3 years from today, even if Ayuk or Debo's still there. Or let's say a year and a half from today. A year and a half from today, Ricky Pearsall could be better than either wide receiver that's left. I think he's that good. And I wanted him in Buffalo, to be quite honest. That was the one player that I kind of wish went to Buffalo. I love Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman's situation is going to make him amazing. But I think Ricky Pearsall mixed with situation would have been a little bit even better. I love Ricky Pearsall. I love him. I think his metrics are off the chart. His route running, his footwork, his speed, his quickness are unreal. Watch him. There's a lot of footage on him in the off. Look, I almost tore my ACL watching him cut yesterday. It was just watching the footage. My knees were sore after. I needed to get on the gib board. Anyway. Appreciate you, Travis. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. Talk to you later, Smitty.
All right, later, bro. Thanks. I appreciate you. Later. Ray G says, I'm drafting Leggett, Pearsall, Corley at the same time, especially since Lynch, Shanahan pissed off Debo. Yeah, that's Pearsall's like the future probably, bro. He really is. I mean, this is one of those moves where it's like Shanahan screwed up where he took him, but he's the right pick. Like, he's the right receiver. I mean, he really is. You just wonder if they could have got him in round 2. They freaked out. Easy says, Smitty, I need to sleep. What are your thoughts on Garrett Wilson? I love Garrett Wilson. I think that if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, he's a top 5 to 10 wide receiver. It's a big range because, I mean, there's just that Aaron Rodgers coming back from the Achilles that makes it hard to put him any higher. But it doesn't mean he can't be 5, but he's got a 5 to 10 range. Love him. We loved him last year. He's so good, and what he did last year without any quarterback is hard to remember, but it was amazing. So love him. All right, guys, appreciate you. Super chat in the building. Rockout says, you think the Niners have nightmares without Adam Peters? Do I think the Niners have nightmares? This is kind of funny when you read it. Pause. You think 49ers have nightmares without Peters? Let's have this read out loud. It's just probably one of the better super chats we've got in a while.
Rockout Super Chat $1.99 from Rockout. You think the 49ers have nightmares without Peters?
I don't know. I don't know if they have nightmares with Peters or nightmares without Peters. I'm not too sure. I don't really know. I think that they have nightmares about their draft, I guess, process, but they came away with 2 players that I do love. I just think they botched the order of everything. But at the end of the day, they did better their team, you know. So, but yeah, they're gonna struggle without Adam Peters there to get some of those late gems like Purdy and Kittle. Like Peters is amazing. He's gonna do great things in Washington. He already did with Luke McCaffrey and Sinnott and JD5. I mean, Adam Peters had one of the best drafts out of all the teams. So clearly he knows what he's doing because he just had a top 3 or 4 draft going to his new team. Brand new team, first year, top 3 or 4 draft. Unreal. Blackbeard says, definitely not sleeping great. The best in the business. Thanks for being here. Thank you, DeBalt. Appreciate the $2 hauler. I'll see you all later. Appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for my super chatters. AJ with the 50. Matt O with the 50. Rock out. Call your boy loud. Rock out. DeBalt. Rock out. Ian and the Reaper in the building. Appreciate every single one of you. 2 hour and 45 minute show. Unbelievable. I didn't even think I was going to do 30 minutes. It is what it is. We need 4 more to start the draft. Here's the link. 4 more. Click this link. Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. 4 more to start this draft. It's a 12-man, $3, $20 to first place, season-long league. Very small amount of money, but you do enough of these and you win them. You just get it's kind of a nice little chunk of change if you're good at these. 4 more to start. Private league. We don't separate like week 14 or 15. It's just us 12 the entire season. You can even click the little icon, the information circle I, and rename it Smitty Draft, so you know to go and check it later, and you can identify it, you know, amongst all your other drafts, that this is a draft that you're drafting with Smitty. Try and beat me. Try and beat everybody else in here. See if you have nightmares with or without Peters by drafting in a private draft with Smitty. Click the link. Do it live. We need 4 more. Here's the link one more time. Appreciate you all. See you all tomorrow. Jimmy celebrates 17 months. How many punts, kicks will Fields return? I answered that one. Ethan with the... oh, no, this wasn't. I don't know why I grabbed that one. Ray G celebrating. I already mentioned that one about Dicker the kicker. Okay, yeah, I think I covered everything. See you all tomorrow.
Legend has it if you say St. Brown 3 times in the dark in the bathroom, you will immediately lose your league.